Chapter 20. In the blink of an eye, 4 years had passed and Wang Daoyuan was no longer able to sneak out successfully. After all, Wang Shui, who was watching him, was the ancestor of sneaking out. All the methods that he could think of were left behind by Wang Shui. His many attempts to sneak out were all instantly seen through by Wang Shui. He was locked up and could not sneak out to sell spirit grains and spirit herbs. He could only ask the 12th uncle to help him buy cultivation resources, and he had to pay a jar of wine every time. Wang Shui even called it compensation for mental damage, compensation for loss of freedom, compensation for loss of youth, and so on. In order to earn spirit stones in exchange for cultivation resources, he could only admit that he could refine superior grade 1 spirit talismans. After all, superior grade 1 spirit talismans had an average price of 5 spirit stones. Spirit talismans that exceeded the allotment set by the family were sold for 4 spirit stones each. With sufficient resources, Wang Daoyuan's cultivation reached the peak of Qi Refinement Stage 6. Qi Refinement Stage 7 was considered late-stage Qi Refinement Stage. Once he broke through to Qi Refinement Stage 7, his confinement was lifted. However, late-stage Qi Refinement Stage was the second bottleneck of the Qi Refinement Stage, and the difficulty of breaking through was far greater than Qi Refinement Stage 4. In 4 years, his cultivation had gone from Qi Refinement Stage 4 to the peak of Qi Refinement Stage 6, an increase of nearly 3 levels. This speed was too fast for most cultivators. However, Wang Daoyuan's cultivation did not solely rely on elixirs. It was also the result of his own hard work. Coupled with his solid foundation, even though his cultivation speed was too fast in the past 4 years, his cultivation could not be considered superficial. However, his foundation could not be considered solid either. The foundation of the Qi Refinement Stage determined one's future achievements. With the space of the Spirit Pearl, Wang Daoyuan's future was very bright, and the possibility of him reaching foundation establishment was not small. Naturally, he had to consider his future. In a situation where one's foundation was not solid enough, directly relying on large amounts of elixirs to forcefully break through the bottleneck would cause very serious consequences. That was if one's foundation was unstable and their cultivation was superficial. In the future, their cultivation would increase slowly, and the difficulty of breaking through would greatly increase when they encountered a bottleneck. Furthermore, it was very troublesome to resolve such a situation. There were only 2 ways. One was to consume spirit herbs that could resolve the problem of an unstable foundation. Of course, such spirit herbs were expensive and rare. The other was to slow down one's cultivation speed and not be in a hurry to break through. Slowly, to completely resolve the problem of an unstable foundation. However, the amount of time needed to accumulate was something that ordinary cultivators could not accept. Although there were all kinds of supplementary secret techniques that could solve the problem of an unstable foundation, compared to cultivating honestly and accumulating enough experience before making a breakthrough, the amount of time, energy, and resources required was much greater. For the sake of his future, it was better to accumulate enough before breaking through. Without any secret techniques or spiritual items, the best way to consolidate one's cultivation was through battle. Wang Daoyuan was confined and could not leave the Alchemy Seal Pavilion. The only opponent he could find was Wang Shui, who was watching over him. Carrying 2 jars of scarlet blood wine, he walked out of the cave. There was nothing he could do about it. If he asked Wang Shui to do something, it would be impossible to do it without wine. He had also asked Wang Shui to buy these wines. Every time he bought wine, Wang Shui would take a cut. He would get 1 for every 10 jars. However, these wine jars were not wasted. They were all used by Wang Daoyuan to store his new wine. The scarlet blood ginseng in the space could be used to make wine 3 years ago. However, there was no way to explain the source of the wine, so he could only drink it himself and not take it out. The earliest batch of scarlet blood wine had already been stored for 3 years. According to the time and the space of the Spirit Pearl, it had already been aged for 30 years. Wang Shui was dozing off in the backyard of the Alchemy Seal Pavilion. Just as Wang Daoyuan walked out of the cave with the 2 jars of wine, he woke up and smiled. "You brat, You don't wake up early without benefits. What business do you have with me this time? I'll say the ugly words first. Don't even think about running away. Wang Daoyuan said fawningly. Look at what you're saying. Can't I be filial to 12th uncle for no reason? I'm already at the peak of Qi disciple stage 6. I'm just one step away from breaking through to late stage Qi disciple stage. If I run away now, wouldn't it be the same as wetting the bed in the morning? Alright, let's not talk about those useless things. Wang Shui interrupted Wang Daoyuan. If you have something to say, just say it. Wang Xiang smiled. Hehe, 12th uncle knows me best. I'm about to break through, but my accumulation isn't enough. If I forcefully break through to late stage Qi disciple stage, my foundation might be unstable. Therefore, I came to find 12th uncle to be my sparring partner and consolidate my cultivation. I knew it. You brat, you wouldn't be so kind as to give me wine for no reason. Since it's to break through as soon as possible, then as an elder, I should help you. If you break through earlier, I won't have to watch over you all day. These 4 years have been stifling for me. I'll beat you up first to vent my anger. Wang Shui said without hesitation. Wang Daoyuan took out the mystic yang sword and performed a sword salute. Wang Shui said casually, don't bother with those empty words. Just directly attack. You're just a rookie without any experience. I'll be fine empty-handed. Although Wang Daoyuan had killed an assassin at the peak of Qi disciple stage, he had relied on the power of the talisman to succeed in a sneak attack. It couldn't be considered combat experience at all. It wasn't wrong to call him a rookie. The only gain was that he had cultivated his courage. When it was time to attack, he would dare to attack. He wouldn't be as afraid as a real rookie. Hearing Wang Shui's words, Wang Daoyuan didn't stand on ceremony. He activated his wind-stepping boots with all his might and stabbed forward with his sword. Wang Shui held the wine gourd in his left hand and used his right hand as a sword finger. He gently tapped on the sword's body, causing the sword to tilt to the side. Wang Daoyuan pulled back the mystic yang sword and swept it over again. Wang Shui flicked his sword finger, and the mystic yang sword was raised high and passed over his head. After that, Wang Daoyuan used all the basic moves of the sword technique, such as chop, lift, point, stab and collapse. Wang Shui easily received it with his sword finger. Other than his right arm, his body didn't move at all. Wang Daoyuan had learned quite a bit of martial arts from the old Taoist in his previous life. However, the society in his previous life didn't have the conditions to fight. The martial arts he learned in his previous life were basically built behind closed doors. He would often spar with the old Taoist. At most, he would act bravely for justice and beat up hooligans. He had never fought with an expert before, so he didn't have any actual combat experience. After fighting for more than 2 hours, Wang Daoyuan's spirit energy was exhausted. He put away the mystic yang sword and sat beside Wang Shui. They each picked up a jar of scarlet blood wine and drank it all in one gulp. They sat on the spot to recover their spirit energy. It had to be said that spirit wine was much better than spirit recovery pills in terms of recovering spirit energy. After drinking the spirit wine, there was no need to refine it. The spirit energy in the wine would quickly be absorbed and automatically enter the meridians. As long as it was transformed by the spirit root, it could be completely used for oneself. On the other hand, spirit recovery pills needed to be refined before they could be absorbed into the meridians. Then, the spirit energy would be transformed into one's own. The time required was 3 times more than drinking the spirit wine. However, spirit wine wasn't without its drawbacks. Cultivators who couldn't drink wine would be drunk for a few days after drinking a jar of wine. No matter how fast one's spirit energy recovered, it was meaningless to use spirit energy to dissolve the alcohol. Even Wang Daoyuan would pass out after drinking 5 jars of scarlet blood wine at once. Wang Shui's alcohol tolerance was about the same. As soon as Wang Daoyuan's spirit energy recovered, he began to spar with Wang Shui again. However, the battle situation still didn't change. It was still one-sided. After fighting for an entire day, his spirit energy was exhausted 4 or 5 times. Wang Daoyuan was exhausted, but Wang Shui didn't sweat at all. He could even fight for a few more hours. Chapter 21. Wang Daoyuan sparred with Wang Shui every day. exhausting all of his spirit energy 2 or 3 times. After replenishing it, he would feel that his spirit energy was even stronger. As his cultivation gradually stabilized, his combat ability also became stronger. Wang Shui went from being motionless in the beginning to being forced to dodge, to standing up and sparring with Wang Daoyuan. After being abused for 3 months, he was finally able to remain undefeated, while Wang Shui was empty-handed. Of course, this was under the condition that Wang Shui only used the 6th level of Qi Disciple, and did not use any spells. At this time, Wang Daoyuan's foundation was already very stable. Even if he quickly broke through to the 9th level of Qi Disciple, his foundation would not be unstable. However, for the sake of his future, it was best to fight steadily. The goal of stabilizing his foundation had been achieved. It was time to break through to the 7th level of Qi Disciple. After thanking Wang Shui, Wang Daoyuan returned to his cave and began to break through in seclusion. Sitting cross-legged on the stone couch, he took out 5 jars of red blood wine that had been stored in the cellar for 30 years. He thought to himself, "My foundation is stable, my spirit energy is abundant, and with these spirit wines, my breakthrough should be stable." He drank a jar of red blood wine first. Without refining it, the spirit energy quickly entered his meridians. Wang Daoyuan operated his cultivation method and guided the spirit energy into his dantian. His dantian was already full of spirit energy. If external spirit energy wanted to enter, he could only continuously compress the spirit energy in his dantian and make it thicker. After spending an hour, he finally guided all of the spirit energy from the jar of red blood wine into his dantian. The spirit energy in his dantian had already reached its limit and could not be increased by a single bit. At this time, he finally felt that he was about to break through. He hurriedly operated his cultivation method and guided the spirit energy to flow through his meridians. The spirit energy from the outside world was attracted and gathered into Wang Daoyuan's body. Every time he operated his cultivation method, the spirit energy in his body grew stronger. Outside the cave, the spirit energy was constantly gathering into Wang Daoyuan's body. The spirit energy in the entire Dan Seal Pavilion decreased, but the spirit energy outside the pavilion was constantly replenished. A spirit energy wind actually appeared in the pavilion. Wang Shui, who was dozing off, sensed the movement and opened his eyes to check the situation. When he confirmed that the spiritual aura was rushing towards Wang Daoyuan's Immortals cave, he smiled in relief and said, "These 3 months of work weren't in vain. Daoyuan is finally going to break through." The worst 5 spirit veins aptitude, the most basic water attribute cultivation method, can water art. And when he breaks through, he can even trigger a spirit chi wind. This kid's foundation is quite solid. Of course, this spirit chi wind was very weak and could only blow some willow catkins and dust. People who didn't have a keen divine sense wouldn't be able to detect the changes in spirit chi. Wang Shui was a cultivator with 2 spiritual roots. It was said that the shadow of his water spiritual root was extremely high. What he practiced was the Jindan stage cultivation method left behind by Wang Qingzu, the art of overturning the sea. When he broke through to the later stage of qi refining, he triggered a vortex of spiritual energy with a diameter of 10 feet. It swept up the fallen leaves and dust. Even mortals could see it. Inside the Immortals cave, Wang Daoyuan was wrapped in water blue spiritual aura. The spiritual aura in his body gathered more and more until his meridians and dantian were filled with spiritual aura. When he could no longer absorb a trace of spiritual aura, he seemed to hear a crack. His dantian and meridians expanded a little, and the spiritual aura in his body became thicker. There was a trace of abnormal fluctuation in the spiritual pearl in his sea of consciousness. The spiritual aura circulated in his meridians and gradually integrated into his blood. The blood integrated with the spiritual aura was the blood essence. The blood essence flowed throughout his body. His internal organs, bones, muscles, and so on were nourished by the blood essence and became stronger. When the blood essence no longer increased, and the strengthening of various parts of the body stopped, the consolidation of the 7th level of qi refining was completed. Wang Daoyuan guided the spiritual aura back to his dantian and stopped circulating his cultivation method. He opened his eyes and stood up, only to feel weak all over. It had been 3 days since he went into seclusion. In fact, the real breakthrough only took half a day. The rest of the time was used to consolidate the realm. He didn't eat or drink for 3 days and 3 nights. He also had to strengthen his body. He was about to faint from hunger. He wanted to catch 2 pseudo-spirit fish from the space of the spiritual pearl, but he didn't expect to enter the space of the spiritual pearl. He couldn't help but be surprised. He saw that the size of the space had doubled, and the area had become 20 mu. The quality of the spiritual fields had greatly improved. They could barely be regarded as second-stage spiritual fields. The concentration of spiritual aura in the entire space had doubled. It was comparable to the spiritual aura near the first-stage high-grade spiritual vein. The flow of time in the space had also accelerated. After testing the inside and outside of the space by lighting incense, the flow of time in the space was 20 times faster than outside. He specially set aside 2 mu of spiritual fields and dug a large pond to expand the scale of spiritual fish breeding and to plant aquatic spiritual plants. He planted another 2 mu of spiritual grains. The number of pseudo-spirit fish increased, and the consumption of spiritual grains increased. In addition, he began to try to use the spiritual grains to brew low-grade spiritual wine. The less than 1 mu of spiritual grains was no longer enough. He planted 3 mu of red blood ginseng. When refining talismans, he consumed too much spiritual energy. In order not to affect the efficiency of talisman making, he relied on red blood wine to quickly restore his spiritual energy. The consumption was really not small. The other 3 mu of spiritual fields were planted with several kinds of spiritual herbs for refining spirit-gathering pills. For years had passed in the space, but 40 years had passed in the space. The Tinqing river carps had grown to a foot long. They had reached the cultivation level of first-stage low-grade. It would not be long before they could reproduce. The pseudo-spirit fish in the space had multiplied to more than 300, but none of them had evolved into a first-stage low-grade demonic beast to become a real spiritual fish. The Qing river carps were already strong enough to crush the pseudo-spirit fish. They did not need to be separated, so they were all put together. The Qing river carps would also prey on these pseudo-spirit fish. The long-tailed bees in the space did not disappoint Wang Daoyuan. They successfully cultivated a new queen bee, and the colony survived. The queen bee and the worker bee looked similar, but the queen bee was twice as big as the worker bee. The ordinary worker bee was a first-stage low-grade spiritual insect, but the queen bee was a first-stage mid-grade spiritual insect. There were spiritual grains, spiritual herbs, and other spiritual plants in the space, which provided a stable honey source for the colony. In the past 40 years, the colony of long-tailed bees had expanded from a few dozen to more than 500. The hive had also changed a lot. It used to be only the size of a fist, but now it was a big hive with a diameter of more than a foot. The number of spiritual bees had only increased by about 500. It was not that the queen bee was slow to reproduce, but that the honey source in the space could only support 500 spiritual bees. Since a year ago, Wang Daoyuan could harvest some honey, but the amount was small. According to the time outside the space of the spiritual pearl, he could only harvest half a kilogram of honey every month. The main honey source in the space was the spiritual grains. The other spiritual plants had a long growth cycle. Relatively speaking, their flowering time was too short. Now he had added 2 acres of spiritual fields to plant spiritual grains. By staggered planting time, he could ensure that there would always be spiritual grains blooming in the space. The honey source was more than 3 times the original. In the future, the number of spiritual bees would definitely exceed 1,500. Plus, the time flow was 20 times faster. In the future, he could harvest more than 6 kilograms of spiritual honey every month. Taking spiritual pills and honey together could reduce the absorption of elixir toxins. He had been taking spiritual pills and spiritual honey to speed up his cultivation. He only needed about half a kilogram of spiritual honey every month. At least 5 kilograms of spiritual honey could be sold. Moreover, with the expansion of the colony, more royal jelly could be produced, which was much better than spiritual honey. Unfortunately, The royal jelly produced before was only enough for the queen bee. There was no surplus at all. Just from breaking through from the middle stage to the late stage of qi refining, the space of the spiritual pearl had such a big change. Wang Daoyuan couldn't wait to break through to the foundation establishment stage. Of course, he could only think about it. Even with so many resources, it would take 7 or 8 years to reach the peak of qi refining, plus the accumulation before the breakthrough, and the search for foundation establishment pills. He might not be able to reach the foundation establishment stage in 20 years. When he entered the space of the spiritual pearl, he didn't feel hungry. When he left the space, his body was about to collapse from hunger. He found the cooking utensils in the cave, and directly cooked with fire talismans in the space of the spiritual pearl. After a full meal, Wang Daoyuan carried 2 jars of wine and swaggered out of the cave. Wang Shui saw his smug look and mocked. "Isn't it just a small breakthrough? Look at how smug you are. You don't even know your surname." Wang Daoyuan laughed and said, "How could I? Didn't I come to thank the 12th uncle? Without your guidance in the past 3 months, would I have broken through so early?" Finished speaking, he handed a jar of wine to Wang Shui. The two looked at each other and smiled, then raised their heads and drank it. Wang Shui laughed and said, "You finally broke through. I don't have to stay in this broken courtyard anymore. These 4 years have been suffocating me to death. I can't go out for a stroll. And I still have to look after a clever little brat like you. Do you think it's easy for me?" Before he finished speaking, Wang Shui had already run out of the Pill Seal Pavilion to experience life in the boundless secular world. Chapter 22. Wang Daoyuan was just planning where to go when Wang Jida came looking for him. Wang Daoyuan went up to greet him. "Greetings, 9th uncle. Grandson has just broken through to the 7th level of Qi disciple, and was just about to report to you." Wang Jida knew that Wang Daoyuan's cultivation had long reached the peak of the 6th level of Qi disciple, and was not surprised that he had broken through to the 7th level. Previously, he was worried that Wang Daoyuan's cultivation would be too hasty, and his foundation would be unstable after breaking through. Now that he saw that Wang Daoyuan's aura was strong, and there was no sense of emptiness, he was relieved. He stared at Wang Daoyuan suspiciously and said, "I'm afraid you're thinking about where to go for a stroll? Since you've broken through to the late stage of Qi disciple, your confinement order has been lifted, and I can't be bothered with you. I came to find you because the clan leader ordered you and Shui to return to Jade Spring Peak immediately without delay." "Where's Shui? Didn't I order him to watch over you?" "After I broke through, the 12th uncle went out." "9th uncle, I want to go out and buy some things. Can you give me some time?" In order to break through to the late stage of Qi disciple as soon as possible, Wang Daoyuan had already used up all of his essence gathering pills. He just happened to need to go out and buy some of the local specialties produced in the space of the spirit pearl. For a cultivator with 5 spirit veins like him, increasing his cultivation mainly relied on resources. Among the various spirit plants in the space of the spirit pearl, only spirit grains could be used to increase cultivation for a long time. However, the effect was very poor, and was only useful for meridian opening and early-stage Qi disciple cultivators. The main use of spirit grains was to allay hunger. Cultivators needed to eat more than 5 kilograms of ordinary grains a day, but 1 kilogram of spirit grains could ensure that they would not be hungry for 3 days. For cultivators, there were too many impurities in grains. If they ate grains, the impurities would enter the body and cause their meridians to be blocked, causing their spirit power to not flow smoothly. In addition, they would need to relieve themselves every day, which was a waste of time. However, eating spirit grains did not have these problems. Although scarlet blood wine could also increase cultivation, its effect was far inferior to essence gathering pills, and the cost was too high. A jug of newly brewed scarlet blood wine weighed 5 kilograms, and could be sold for 20 spirit stones. The effect of increasing cultivation was equivalent to a essence gathering pill. Within the space of the spirit pearl, there were only 100 or so jars of scarlet blood wine. They were all stored in the cellar, and the landlord did not have any surplus. Even though there were a few spiritual herbs in the space that could be used to concoct the spirit gathering pill, He had already harvested a few hundred portions over the past 4 years. However, eating it directly would be a waste. Wang Daoyuan had also accumulated 6 kilograms of honey, but he was not so extravagant as to use spiritual honey to enhance his cultivation. In the immortal cultivation world, spiritual honey was an important resource. Adding spiritual honey during alchemy could improve the quality of the elixir and greatly reduce the amount of elixir toxins left behind. Consuming elixir and spiritual honey together could reduce the absorption of elixir toxins. High-grade spiritual honey could even dissolve elixir toxins in the body. Adding spiritual honey to healing pills could increase their efficacy. Spiritual honey itself also had a little healing effect. When a body refinement cultivator was tempering their body, consuming spirit honey could protect their internal organs and prevent them from harming their foundation. The most important thing was that spirit honey could also be used to brew wine. Adding some spirit honey to scarlet blood wine would greatly increase its quality and efficacy. Unfortunately, he did not have the recipe to brew honey wine and could not directly brew spirit honey wine. Although Wang Daoyuan's spirit honey was only brewed from low-grade first-rank spirit bees, it did not lack the effects of spirit honey. It was just that it was much weaker than high-grade spirit honey, but it was better than nothing. However, eating it often still had a certain effect. Even the low-grade first-rank spirit honey had a market price of more than 100 spirit stones per kilogram, and it was still priceless. Using spirit honey to enhance one's cultivation, the effect of 1 kilogram of spirit honey was not as good as 5 essence gathering pills, but the price was 10 times higher. In order to achieve the foundation establishment, he had to save up spirit stones as soon as possible to buy foundation establishment pills. A foundation establishment pill could increase the probability of a breakthrough by 20%. With Wang Daoyuan's 5 spiritual roots aptitude, he needed 5 pills to guarantee a 100% chance of a breakthrough. The price of a foundation establishment pill was more than 50,000 spirit stones, and it could only be found by chance. 5 pills would be at least 250,000 spirit stones. Even with the space in the spiritual pearl, it would take him more than 20 years to save up so many spirit stones after deducting his daily cultivation expenses. Wang Daoyuan was not a loose cultivator. He had his own clan. With sufficient resources, he still had to support his clan. Only when his clan was strong would he have more room for development. Although he was a true local rich man, he did not dare to squander too much. It would be better to sell the little bit of honey he had on hand for spirit stones. Selling it to the Pill Seal Pavilion could also take care of his clan's business. Wang Jida nodded and said, "All right, I'll give you 6 hours. After 6 hours, you must return to the Jade Spring Peak." Wang Daoyuan walked out of the Pill Seal Pavilion and found a secluded place. He changed into a black robe, a veil, and a bamboo hat. After taking a detour, he returned to the Pill Seal Pavilion. When he walked into the Pill Seal Pavilion, the person welcoming him was still Wang Daocheng. Wang Daocheng was quite valued by 10th grade uncle. It seemed that 9th grade uncle had put in a lot of effort. Wang Daocheng had a smile on his face as he welcomed him. "Daoyu, what do you want?" "Our shop." Wang Daoyuan took out the discount iron plate. "I'll give you 100 spirit gathering pills, 200 high-grade tier 1 talisman papers, and 50 kilograms of spirit ink." He had already harvested a few stalks of the 10-year-old yellow cloud grass in the spirit pearl space. He did not lack talisman papers at all, but he still had not found spirit ink. His main goal was the spirit ink. The talisman papers were just a cover. These 4 years he did not rest. He made talisman papers and refined spirit talismans. He already had 600 to 700 high-grade tier 1 talismans in his hands. Wang Daoyuan said in a low voice, "I still have some things to sell. It's just that it's not suitable to take them out in public." Wang Daocheng was a shrewd person. When he heard this, he immediately understood that this was a big business. He led Wang Daoyuan to a room on the 2nd floor. Entering the room, he saw Wang Jihe sitting in the room. Wang Daocheng turned and left the room, closing the door behind him. Once Wang Daocheng left, Wang Jihe opened his mouth. "I wonder what Daoyu wants to sell. There are only the 2 of us here. Can you take it out and let me have a look?" Wang Daoyuan took out a wine jar and pretended to be old. The things I want to sell are all here. Shopkeeper, you'll know at a glance. Wang Jiha opened the wine jar. A sweet fragrance wafted out. He took a strong sniff and glanced into the jar. Then he closed the jar. He said without showing any emotion, "This is Tier 1 low-grade spiritual honey. The source of the honey is the spiritual grain flour. It weighs 6 caddies. The quality of the spiritual honey is very good. There are no impurities. This jar of spiritual honey costs 600 spirit stones. What do you think, Daoyu?" Wang Daoyuan admired him in his heart. With just a sniff and a glance, he could tell the quality of the spiritual honey and the source of the spiritual honey. As expected, not just anyone could be a shopkeeper. With this kind of experience, one could not even think about it without decades of accumulation. Wang Daoyuan pretended to be angry. Daoyu really knows how to do business. 600 spirit stones for 6 caddies of spiritual honey of such quality. Where can you find such a business? I'll take 700 spirit stones. No bargaining. It was not that Wang Daoyuan was stingy and did not want to let his family take advantage of him. It was just that the price was too low and would arouse suspicion. The actual value of 6 caddies of spiritual honey was more than 700 spirit stones. It was normal to sell it for 1,000 spirit stones to someone who needed it urgently. Hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, Wang Jiha was not angry. Instead he laughed. He was waiting for the other party to make an offer. 700 spirit stones for 6 caddies of spiritual honey of good quality was a big profit. The Wang family had alchemists and winemakers. Using 6 caddies of spiritual honey for alchemy and winemaking would definitely bring in more than 1,000 spirit stones. Daoyu is indeed a straightforward person. Then, I can't be too unhappy. 700 spirit stones. Then, he took out 7 mid-grade spirit stones and handed them to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan thought. He even took out mid-grade spirit stones. He wants to be on good terms with me. 1 mid-grade spirit stone was worth 100 low-grade spirit stones. However, on the market, it was usually 110 low-grade spirit stones to exchange for 1 mid-grade spirit stone. Even then, there were not necessarily people who were willing to make the exchange. Needless to say, in the black market, 1 mid-grade spirit stone could be exchanged for 150 to 60 low-grade spirit stones. Mid-grade spirit stones contain much purer spiritual qi. Whether it was used to restore spiritual power or improve cultivation, the effect would be more than 100 low-grade spirit stones. After bidding farewell to Wang Jiha, he went to the first floor to get the soul-gathering pill, talisman paper, and spirit ink. After paying the spirit stones, he turned and left the Dan Seal Pavilion. Chapter 23. Wang Daoyuan strolled around the old shop for a while, but there was nothing he wanted to buy. When he returned to the Alchemy Seal Pavilion, Wang Shui had already returned. The two of them arrived at the dock behind the Jade Spring General Store, where the spirit ship was already waiting for them. The spirit ship was still the same kind of spirit ship used to transport goods when they left the mountain. The only difference was that this time, the ship was going against the current and required spirit stones, or a cultivator's spiritual force to drive it. The spirit ship wasn't loaded with any large cargo and was almost empty. With the help of several family disciples, the speed was even faster than when they left the mountain. In less than a day, the Jade Spring Peak was already in sight. Standing on the boat and gazing into the distance, one could only see the Jade Spring Peak shrouded in clouds and mist, and the Jade Dragon stream meandered through the mountains, as if a jade dragon was faintly discernible within the clouds. At the top of the mountain, the pavilions and terraces seemed to be there but not there. It really did have the atmosphere of a celestial mountain. The spirit ship cut through the waves on the river, moving as if it was flying. Not long after, it arrived at the foot of Jade Spring Peak. The clan leader ordered the two of them to return immediately without delay. There must be something urgent. The two of them naturally didn't dare to delay. They didn't even return to their respective cave residences and went straight to the assembly hall. The core buildings of the clan were all near the Jade Dragon Spring. The ancestral temple was on a large rock to the north of the Jade Dragon Spring. The meeting hall was on the east side of the Jade Dragon Spring. The administrative hall was on the southeast side of the Jade Dragon Spring. The discussion hall was the place where the patriarch and the elders of the clan discussed matters. All matters of the clan, big or small, were discussed here. The south bank of the Jade Dragon Spring was relatively low, and the spring water flowed into the Jade Dragon stream from here. The Jade Dragon Spring was a spirit spring, and also the spirit eye of the Jade Spring Peak's spirit vein. The so-called spirit eye was the place where the spirit chi was the densest in a spirit vein. The spring water was filled with spiritual energy and was extremely effective when used to water the spiritual fields. The spiritual fields on Jade Spring Peak were all distributed on both sides of the Jade Dragon Stream. When Wang Daoyuan and Wang Jian walked out of the assembly hall, they heard Patriarch Wang Jian say, "This time, the Netherworld sect has issued a conscription order, conscripting the disciples of the affiliated clans to go to Wild Goose Mountain's Wild Goose Valley to clean up the demonic beasts that threaten the Wild Goose Valley's trade routes. Our Wang clan will send out 1 foundation establishment cultivator and 10 chi refinement cultivators. There were only a few rank 2 demonic beasts that could threaten the trade route. The rest were all rank 1 demonic beasts. The cleanup mission isn't that dangerous. So what I'm thinking is to send out a few disciples with good aptitudes. Just treat it as training. I will personally lead the team. My 12th brother, Ji Ming, is an expert in alchemy and healing. If he goes with us, the injured family members can be treated as soon as possible." In addition, Shui's cultivation had already reached the peak of chi refinement. Cultivating in seclusion wouldn't be of much use. Instead, he should gain more experience and follow along. Dao Xing's cultivation had also reached the 8th level of chi refinement. It was time for him to go out and experience the killing. There's also Dao Yuan. Thanks to his cleverness, he managed to fool all the foundation establishment cultivators. Otherwise, our Wang clan would have suffered a great loss. This time, he should be able to gain a lot by bringing him along. Elders, do you have anything to add? Wang Daoxing was ranked 2nd among his peers. He had 2 spiritual roots, and his main spiritual root was a metal spiritual root. Among his peers, his spiritual root was 2nd only to Wang Daochang. It was also very likely that he would reach the foundation establishment stage. None of the elders had any objections. The patriarch continued, "Since that's the case, then it's decided." Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui entered the meeting hall. Wang Jian saw the 2 of them. "You heard it too. Get ready and set off as soon as possible." He then glanced at Wang Daoyuan and said, 20 years old and already at the 7th level of chi refinement. Your 2nd and 3rd brother are also at this speed. However, cultivation needs to be down to earth. You must know that more haste, less speed. If you blindly strive for speed and your foundation isn't stable, you'll be in big trouble. Judging from your vigorous aura, you should know the severity of the matter. I won't say too much. Also, most pills have pill toxins. If you rely too much on pills, pill toxins will accumulate in your body. Once they erupt, your foundation will be damaged at best, and your life will be in danger at worst. Wang Daoyuan repeatedly said yes, but he didn't think so in his heart. He had sufficient spiritual honey, although Tier 1 spiritual honey couldn't dispel the pill toxins in his body. Taking pills and spiritual honey together could greatly reduce the absorption of pill toxins and suppress the pill toxins in his body. Therefore, although Wang Daoyuan often took pills, the pill toxins in his body didn't accumulate much. With his body's condition, even if he took pills and spiritual honey together for several decades, there wouldn't be any hidden dangers of pill toxins erupting. A day later, Wang Shui took Wang Daoyuan and 10 other chi refinement cultivators and left Jade Spring Peak. They headed for Gold Goose City, which was more than 5,000 li to the west. Gold Goose City was at the southern end of Beiyuan Valley. It was an immortal city. Most of the people living in the city were cultivators. A few mortals were also descendants of cultivators. Gold Goose City was originally a stronghold. Beiyuan Mountain towered into the clouds, separating the north from the south. After thousands of years of fighting, the human race completely occupied the south of Beiyuan Mountain. Under the repeated sweeps by the human race, the demon race in the east of Beiyuan Mountain was no longer a threat. Most of the demon beasts fled to the west of Huiyin Mountain, which was tens of thousands of li away. That place was sparsely populated, and was still the territory of the demon race. Therefore, Huiyin Mountain became the dividing line between the human race and the demon race. The south of the mountain was the territory of the human race, and the north of the mountain was inhabited by the human race and the demon race. Huiyin Mountain, as a whole, was high in the west and low in the east. The main mountain range had been hidden thousands of li away from Gold Goose City. In the area of Gold Goose City, there were few continuous mountains. Most of them were relatively isolated peaks. To the east, they were connected with the scattered peaks in the periphery of Tianjian mountain range. Even so, for the human race, the mountain road in the east of Huiyin Mountain was rugged and difficult to travel. It was still an insurmountable moat. Of course, Huiyin Mountain was not without flaws. In the whole mountain range, there were several relatively flat mountain roads that could connect the north and south. Guiyan Valley was one of them. In order to prevent the demon race from using these mountain roads to sneak attack, the human race built fortresses at the southern end of each mountain road. Among the many fortresses, Gold Goose City was somewhat special. Guiyan Valley was the widest, flattest, and shortest mountain road in Huiyin Mountain. Wild geese in the north of the mountain flew to the south. It was difficult to cross Huiyin Mountain. Only from Guiyan Valley to the north and south of the mountain, Guiyan Valley got its name. In recent hundreds of years, the battle between the human race and the demon race had decreased. The two races began to have business dealings. The Guiyan Valley, which was the best to go through, became the most important trade route. Every year, a large number of goods went from Guiyan Valley to the north and south. This trade route brought a lot of income to the ghost sect. However, since 2 years ago, the caravans were often attacked by the demon beasts. The cultivators of the ghost sect who escorted the caravans suffered heavy losses. The loss of goods also made the ghost sect feel painful. What was more serious was the Guiyan market at the northern end of Guiyan Valley, which was the trading place of the two races. The caravans were attacked again and again, which seriously affected the trade between the two races. Once the trade was interrupted, the two races could not get what they needed through trade. It was very likely that they would get the resources they needed through war. Therefore, the ghost sect spent a lot of effort to investigate the attack. The results of the investigation showed that the attack might be the spontaneous behavior of some remaining demon beasts in Huiyin Mountain. There were spirit veins and plants, so naturally, there would be demon beasts. The narrowest part of Huiyin Mountain was nearly 2,000 to 3,000 miles. The demon beasts hiding in it could not be killed. Demon beasts attacking the caravans happened from time to time on the various trade routes in Huiyin Mountain. It was not a rare thing. The investigation found that the demon beasts were entrenched in the forest hundreds of miles around Guiyan Valley. There were tens of thousands of demon beasts. Fortunately, there were no demon beasts above the 3rd rank. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Even so, it would take a lot of effort to eliminate the demon beasts. The most difficult thing was not to defeat the demon beasts, but to ensure that no demon beasts escaped the net. If they only defeated the demon beasts, they would scatter and flee. After a while, they would come back again and attack the caravans endlessly. In order to completely solve the problem, the ghost sect recruited 3,000 cultivators from the affiliated forces, 1,000 rogue cultivators, and 1,000 soldiers, a total of 5,000 cultivators. In addition, there were 3 elders of the Purple Mansion sect. Chapter 24. There were 11 people in the Wang clan, except for the clan leader, the 2 elders Wang Shui and Wang Jiming, and the 2 juniors Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoxing. The other 6 people were all white-haired old men. These 6 people were all from the Ji generation, and they were all old cultivators who did not have a high cultivation base and had no skills. 2 of them were more than 110 years old, and the lifespan of a qi refining cultivator was only 120 years old. Cultivators fought with others all their lives, and it was inevitable that there would be hidden injuries that would affect their lifespan. Therefore, very few cultivators could live to the limit of their lifespan, and these 2 granduncles could pass away at any time. The other 4 were slightly younger, but they were also more than 100 years old. To put it bluntly, The 6 of them were cannon fodder. Whenever there was a conscription, most of the people sent by the clan were cannon fodder. The purpose of the sect conscripting cultivators from the affiliated forces was to be cannon fodder for the sect cultivators and reduce the casualties of the sect cultivators. The clans were not fools. For the continuation of the clan, it was impossible to send the clan members with good aptitude or skills to die. Therefore, the clan members who were older and had no skills were pulled out to make up the numbers. Of course, these cannon fodder would not die in vain. Once they were used as cannon fodder, regardless of whether they were dead or alive, the clan would give them a sum of spirit stones or resources. Once they died in battle, the sect that issued the conscription order would also give them a pension. Originally, they did not have many years to live, but in order for their descendants to get more resources and go further on the path of cultivation, they were willing to die in battle for the clan. Wang Jian was a foundation establishment cultivator and could fly on his sword. Golden Goose City was more than 5,000 miles away from Jade Spring Peak, and he could make a round trip in half a day. However, Wang Daoyuan and the others were qi refining cultivators. Unless they had flying magic tools or flying spirit beasts, they could only rely on their 2 legs to hurry. With 10 qi refining cultivators to take care of, Wang Jian naturally could not fly on his sword and could only walk with them. However, foundation establishment was foundation establishment after all. Even if they were walking, it was not something that qi refining cultivators could catch up with. The 10 qi refining cultivators could only use the divine travel talisman and activate it with all their strength to barely keep up with Wang Jian. The group of people hurried on foot. In order to take care of the 6 old granduncles, they only walked 700 to 800 miles a day, and finally arrived at Golden Goose City on the 7th day. The Golden Goose City had a circumference of more than 10 miles, which was not big among the mortal cities. The city wall was built with rocks mined from Mount Huiyan. It was densely engraved with runes, giving off an indestructible feeling. The city wall was about 30 meters tall. Giant crossbows were placed on top of the battlements, and the arrowheads were shining with a cold light. Unfortunately, Wang Daoyuan knew nothing about refining tools, so he couldn't tell what grade the magic tool was. When the group arrived at the city gate, there was already a large group of people queuing up. The crowd was divided into 2 groups. In one group, there were dozens of people wearing the same clothes. They were all cultivators from the affiliated forces of the Netherworld sect. The other group of people was dressed in a disorderly manner. They were either in groups of 3 to 5, or standing alone outside the crowd. It was a bit of a stretch to say that they were queuing. These people were all rogue cultivators recruited by the Netherworld sect. The group from the Wang family was dressed in white Taoist robes. Apart from the golden dragon fish embroidered on the cuffs, they looked plain and unadorned. There weren't many of them, so they didn't attract much attention as they lined up at the back of the group. It was quite troublesome for a group of rogue cultivators to enter the city. They also needed to register their name, cultivation level, and other information before they could enter the city. The group of clan cultivators entered the city relatively quickly. They just needed to show their conscription order and prove their identity to get a pass. Even so, a clan had at least 10 people, and at most dozens of people. It was also very time-consuming to register them one by one. The group from the Wang family queued for more than 4 hours. Finally, there was only one clan left in front. At this time, a sharp eagle cry came from the sky. Looking up, a bird appeared in the sky in the west. It was only a silhouette, and couldn't be seen clearly. When the bird came closer, it turned out to be a giant golden eagle. It emitted the pressure of a Zifu realm cultivator. The qi refining cultivators in the queue all turned pale and struggled to circulate their spiritual power to resist. There were more than 30 people sitting on the back of the golden eagle. Among them, there were 3 foundation establishment cultivators, and the rest were late-stage qi refining cultivators. This strength was enough to forcibly break into the Wang family's Jade Spring Peak. The golden eagle landed, and the 30 people dismounted. They wore golden Taoist robes and arrogantly walked past the people in the queue to get their passes. Apart from the 2 brothers Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoxing, The rest of the Wang family were all experienced old foxes. Wang Daoyuan had also lived 2 lives, so he naturally wouldn't be angered. Wang Daoxing's temper wasn't good. Just as he was about to flare up, he was stopped by Wang Shui and Wang Daoyuan. The Wang family didn't say anything, and the clans behind them didn't bother to pay them any attention. However, the Li family at the front of the queue wasn't happy. The Li family also had the intention of training their young disciples, so they brought a lot of young people. Someone disregarded their clan like this. The young people couldn't take it lying down. A young disciple of the Li family couldn't bear it anymore. He walked forward and angrily rebuked. Seeing that you're also from a cultivation family, don't you even understand the principle of first come first serve? You're a disgrace to our cultivation family. The leading golden-robed man looked to be in his 40s. His appearance was rather unique, like a basketball with half a football on it. Coupled with his golden robe, if he had a copper coin in his mouth, he would be a living 3-legged golden toad. He could be placed in a shop to attract money. Hearing someone rebuke him, he turned around and saw that it was only a young man in the middle stage of qi refining. The golden toad couldn't help but fly into a rage out of humiliation. Little brat, you're not even fully grown yet you dare to yell here. You don't even know how to respect your elders. I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of your elders. After saying that, he waved his palm. A beam of golden light shot towards the young man from the Li clan who had spoken out. The leader of the Li family was the clan leader, who was also a foundation establishment cultivator. He reached out his hand to block the golden light. Daoyu has such a big temper. Even if my Li family's disciples are in the wrong, it's not up to you to teach them a lesson. Besides, he's right. The golden toad was at a loss for words. His face turned red. 3 foundation establishment cultivators from his family stood out, intending to use their power to suppress them. The Li family only had 2 foundation establishment cultivators and 20 qi refining cultivators. Many of them were in the middle stage of qi refining. With 1 less foundation establishment cultivator, the qi refining cultivators were at a disadvantage. Once the battle started, the Li family would definitely lose. The Li family's clan leader was in a difficult position. He was already in a difficult position. If they fought, they definitely wouldn't be able to win. The family's disciples would suffer heavy losses. If they gave in, it would be shameful and they would be blackmailed. Just as he was in a dilemma, a foundation establishment cultivator wearing a white robe and carrying a long sword on his back walked forward. He advised, "It's better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. Everyone is here to wipe out the demon beasts. Why make things unpleasant over such a small matter? Don't fight among yourselves and delay the important matters." This white-robed cultivator was Wang Jian. Wang Jian and the Li family's clan leader Li Xinghe had been good friends for many years. Seeing his good friend in trouble, he naturally wanted to help. Now that the Wang family still had some faith in the Netherworld sect, he should be able to help them out by persuading them. Who knew that this golden toad was a hothead? Not only did he not take advantage of the situation, he even went from bad to worse. He scolded Wang Shui. "You dare to interfere in this matter? Looks like the Wang family's wings have hardened. Don't think that the Netherworld sect will care about you just because you offered the clear river carp. How dare the remnants of the Zhao family be so impudent in front of me? My family's patriarch is an elder of the Netherworld sect. Your Wang family is just a dog raised by the Netherworld sect. How dare you bare your teeth in front of the patriarch? You must be tired of living." Before he finished speaking, the Wang family was furious and took out their magic tools. Wang Daoyuan also took out his profound yang sword and got into position. He was just waiting for the clan leader's order to kill them. Previously, the golden-robed family was arrogant and didn't target any family. But now they were directly insulting the Wang family. If they were to tolerate this, the Wang family wouldn't be able to raise their heads in front of others anymore. When the words of Golden Toad came out, not only were the Wang family's disciples furious, most of the family's cultivators were unhappy. Chapter 25. The 3 sects had only been in charge of Zhao for 300 years. Their disciples didn't establish many families, and most of them hadn't developed yet. Most of the affiliated families of the Ghost sect were the remnants of the Zhao family, These families had participated in the war against the three sects, either voluntarily or forced. They still remembered the blood feud between them. To maintain stability, the three sects had to digest the results as soon as possible and increase their strength. The Ghost sect adopted a divide-and-conquer strategy against the remnants of the Zhao family. The families that had marriage alliances with the Zhao family, or caused great casualties to the Ghost sect, were all exterminated. The families that didn't have much to do with the Zhao family adopted a conciliatory policy. Of course, they were also punished. The disciples of the Ghost sect had established many families and seized many old families' territories and resources. The two sides didn't like each other. The Ghost sect was powerful, and it prohibited the affiliated families from fighting among themselves. Although the old and new families fought with each other secretly, they were still harmonious on the surface. Golden Toad's words put the secret struggle on the surface. On the surface, he was scolding the Wang family, but in fact, he was scolding all the old families. The Li family and the Wang family were both old families, and they were the representatives of the old families who were close to the Ghost sect. Li Xinghe's brother, Li Xinghai, was very talented. He had joined the Purple Mansion Elder of the Ghost sect, and was now in the middle stage of foundation establishment. With him, the Li family could be said to be a direct descendant of the Ghost sect. Although the Wang family didn't have any foundation establishment disciples in the Ghost sect, they were famous among the old families for being obedient. Wherever the Ghost sect pointed, the Wang family would fight. Not to mention the Qing River carp that caused a stir 4 years ago. The Wang family took the initiative to hand over the Qing River carp and got the job of raising the Qing River carp for the Ghost sect. This job wasn't given to anyone in the Wang family, but to the Wang family. If the person passed away, the job could be given to someone else. This job was given to the Wang family. As long as the Wang family didn't perish, this job would belong to the Wang family. There weren't many families that could have a job in the Ghost sect. Most of the direct descendants didn't have this treatment. It could be said that the Wang family's status in the Ghost sect was higher than the Li family. The Wang and Li families were typical examples of local families that integrated into the Ghost sect. They were the bones of the horses that the Ghost sect bought with money. And today, the 2 horses that should have been treated kindly were slapped on the spot. This slap was also on the faces of all the clans that had thrown themselves into the arms of the Netherworld sect. In the eyes of the direct descendants of the Netherworld sect, the old families were the remnants of evil, and the families that actively approached the Netherworld sect were dogs that could be killed at any time. Golden Toad saw the strange expressions on the cultivators' faces and realized that he had misspoken, but he couldn't bring himself to take back his words. Now Jin Chan was in a dilemma. If he couldn't take them down quickly and alerted the elder of the underworld sect in the city, he would have to bear the consequences. If he took a step back and took back his words, he would lose face, and even the Purple Mansion sect's elder would lose face. If he didn't advance or retreat, not only would he lose face, he would also have to bear the crime of creating internal strife. With no other choice, he made up his mind and prepared to be ruthless. Even if things got out of hand, he could put the blame on the Wang and Li families. Even if they had people in the sect, they wouldn't openly offend the Purple Mansion elder's family. It was very likely that they would turn a big matter into a small one, and a small matter into nothing. The other families and individual cultivators present would not offend the Purple Mansion elder for 2 small families. Most of them would just stand by and watch. Wang Daoyuan had been staring at Golden Toad all the time. Seeing his strange expression and fierce eyes, he knew that this old man wanted to take action. He immediately sent a message to the clan leader. Clan leader, be careful. This Golden Toad wants to attack you. Golden Toad waved his hand, and a flying sword flew out from his sleeve and went straight to Wang Jian. Wang Jian was also a veteran. With Wang Daoyuan's reminder, the long sword on his back flew out and easily blocked the attack. Golden Toad was about to continue his attack when a strong pressure came from the sky. Not many cultivators of the qi refining stage could stand. Only Wang Shui from the Wang family could still stand. Wang Daoyuan tried several times but couldn't stand up. He could only sit on the ground. Even the cultivators of the foundation establishment stage had to use their spiritual power to resist. It turned out that the guards at the city gate saw the conflict between the families in the line and immediately reported to the Purple Mansion elder in the city. The Gold Goose City elder was called Lu Jinhui. When he received the news that someone was causing trouble, he hurried over. Because flying was prohibited in the city, and there were many people in this special period, his speed was affected. As soon as he stepped out of the city gate, he saw the golden-robed man attacking Wang Jian. He wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Wang Jian received the attack unscathed, and he heaved a sigh of relief. Golden Toad still didn't give up. He could only release his pressure to show off his power. Seeing that everyone was shocked, Lu Jinhui asked, Wang Jian Li Xinghe Jin Yugui, why are you three fighting here? Golden Toad was called Jin Yugui. He was the clan leader of the Jin family. One of the patriarchs of the Jin family was the Purple Mansion elder of the Netherworld sect. Jin Yugui wanted to complain first. However, Wang Jian was a smart person. He didn't give him a chance to speak first. He said, Elder Lu, the cause of this fight is only a small matter. The Jin family didn't want to line up in front of the city gate. They cut in front of the Li family and wanted to enter the city immediately. A little friend of the Li family couldn't stand it and talked back to Jin Daoyu. Jin Daoyu was angry and wanted to teach the Li family's little friend a lesson. Li Daoyu tried to stop him. I was afraid that things would get out of hand, so I came out to mediate. Unexpectedly, Jin Daoyu was angry and scolded me. Elder, you also saw the rest. Lu Jinhui asked. What did he scold? Wang Jian repeated Jin Yugui's words to him. Lu Jinhui heard it and knew that it was bad. Jin Yugui said something that shouldn't be said. If this matter was not handled well, many families would be disappointed. If Jin Yugui was severely punished, he would offend the ancestor of the Jin family. If he wasn't punished, it meant that the ghost sect admitted Jin Yugui's words. In the future, it would be difficult for the ghost sect to get the families to work for them. After a fierce ideological struggle, Lu Jinhui's character of considering the big picture came into play. He decided to punish Jin Yugui and appease the families. However, for the unity of the ghost sect, he couldn't punish him severely. After making the decision, Lu Jinhui scolded Jin Yugui. This time, all families gathered in the Golden Goose City to clean up the demonic beasts. This is a big event for the ghost sect. As the descendant of Elder Jin, you don't think about the ghost sect, but before Lu Jinhui finished his words, he heard a creepy voice. Hey, Elder Lu, why do you have to lower yourself to the junior's level? Jin Yugui made a slip of the tongue. It's just a small matter. Why do you have to make such a big fuss? What's more, now is the time to use people. Let him redeem himself. Wang Daoyuan looked in the direction of the voice. He saw a man in a black cloak that covered his face. He was a little stooped and held a bone stick in his right hand. He looked like an old man. With just a glance at the black-robed old man, Wang Daoyuan's hair stood on end and goosebumps appeared all over his body. After that, the old man in the black robe transmitted a message to Lu Jinhui. Elder Lu, is it worth offending Elder Jin and causing a faction fight in the sect for a few small families? Lu Jinhui was devoted to the public. If it was just offending Elder Jin, he was not afraid. But when it came to faction fights, he had to think about it. Chapter 26. The Underworld sect was divided into 3 factions: the native faction, the family faction, and the foreign faction. The native faction was born and raised in the sect. Their elders were the cultivators of the Underworld sect, and their ancestors were even the founding elders of the sect. This faction had the highest status in the sect, and they were also the strongest. Lu Jinhui, as well as Elder Zhou of Clear Glass City, were all members of this faction. The Golden Core cultivators of the Underworld sect were all native factions. The other 2 factions were no match for the native faction. This was also the most fundamental reason why the Underworld sect could maintain its stability. The native faction cultivators and family members all lived in the Underworld sect. The mortals also lived near the mountain gate of the Underworld sect. They didn't set up another sect far away from the sect. Therefore, the native faction didn't have much conflict with the affiliated families, and their attitude towards the affiliated families was also relatively gentle. The family faction and the foreign faction were not native forces of the underworld sect. The foreign faction's predecessors were small sects that were annexed by the underworld sect, or they took the initiative to join. There were also some evil cultivators who joined the underworld sect. Before this faction joined the underworld sect, they had a very deep relationship with each other. After joining the underworld sect, they formed a group and formed the second largest faction. This faction couldn't compete with the native faction in the underworld sect, and they didn't want to be suppressed. Therefore, they all established families outside the underworld sect and actively developed their forces. If the foreign faction wanted to develop and grow, it was necessary to seize the interests of the old family. The conflict between the two was very deep. The foreign faction's attitude towards the Zhao family's remnants was also very tough. They advocated for the Zhao family's remnants to be exterminated. The Liang family's ancestor and the black-robed old man were both from the foreign faction. The Jin family's ancestor was the leader of the foreign faction. Elder Jin's cultivation had already reached the peak of the Zifu realm. After many years of polishing, he could form the golden core at any time. His status in the underworld sect was very high. It could be said that he was the number one person below the golden core. Moreover, Elder Jin was a vengeful person. He was also vicious and merciless. Not many people were willing to offend him. The family faction was made up of loose cultivators or family members. After joining the underworld sect, they obtained a relatively high status. However, outside the underworld sect there were still families. Because of their birth, they were very close to the old families in the underworld sect. The elders of the family faction didn't have any special relationship with each other, and it was very difficult to unite. Therefore, they were the weakest of the three factions. Most of the higher-ups were elders without any powerful representatives. Yang Yong was already one of the people with the highest status in this faction. Because they were weak, the only way to strengthen themselves was to ally with the old families. Once the old family was completely integrated into the underworld sect, the only choice was to ally with the family branch. At that time, the family branch would be able to crush the foreign branch and compete with the local branch. The attitude towards the old family became the focus of the game between the three factions of the Netherworld sect. If the old family clan was destroyed, the foreign branch's strength would develop rapidly. If the old family clan was merged, the family branch's strength would increase greatly. Neither of these situations were what the local faction wanted to see. The main forces of the other two factions were outside of the Netherworld sect. Whether the Netherworld sect was strong or weak, it didn't affect the other two factions much. All of the local faction's strength was within the Netherworld sect. Only when the Netherworld sect was powerful could the local faction obtain more benefits. Therefore, the local faction's attitude was to divide the old family. Destroying a part of it and merging another part of it would balance the two forces and maintain the stability of the Netherworld sect. The best result for the Underworld sect would be to gradually disintegrate the two factions and merge the two factions into the local faction. In addition to the conflict of interest, the three factions also had differences in the inheritance. From the name of the sect, it could be seen that the inheritance of the Netherworld sect was mainly based on the ghost path and was supplemented by the corpse path. It was a proper evil sect. The cultivators of the foreign branch were also evil. Ghost, corpse, demon, and other inheritances were mixed, but they were still the same as the inheritance of the Netherworld sect. As for the members of the family branch, their inheritances were very messy. They were mainly righteous, which was incompatible with the other two factions. This was also an important reason why the status of the family branch was not high. After receiving the message from the black-robed elder, Lu Jinhui pondered for a long time and finally said, "Jin Yugue, you should be severely punished for speaking rudely. However, now that we are facing a great enemy, we are in need of people. I will allow you to take the blame and make contributions. If you don't do your best in the next battle, you will be severely punished. In addition, you insulted the Wang and Li families. You should apologize." At this time the black-robed elder said, "This concerns Elder Jin's face. There is no need to apologize." Lu Jinhui had no choice. It was not good for anyone to fall out with him. He just comforted the Wang and Li families and turned to leave. The black-robed elder glanced at the people present and left with Lu Jinhui. The families continued to register to enter the city, and the Jin family was at the front. However, now no one cared about the order of entering the city. The people in charge of each old family team were thinking about whether it was necessary to integrate into the Netherworld sect. Wang Daoyuan thought in his heart. From this incident, it can be seen that the Netherworld sect's attitude towards the old family is very different. Yang Yong strongly advocated to accept the old family, while the black-robed elder and Elder Jin advocated to destroy the old family. Lu Jinhui did not have a clear attitude and had been trying to smooth things over. Obviously, the cultivators who advocated to accept the old family did not have the advantage. It seemed that it was necessary to mention this matter to the patriarch later. The strategy of the Wang family to integrate into the Netherworld sect should be changed. After experiencing a storm, the cultivators who registered their identity at the gate of the city were afraid of another accident, so they also sped up. In less than 15 minutes, the Wang family entered the city. Golden Goose City was not big, and the layout of the city was very simple. 2 roads, one vertical and one horizontal, connected the 4 gates and intersected in the center of the city, dividing the whole city into 4 parts. The center of the city was a crossroads. The official institutions in the city were all around the crossroads. The east of the city was the marketplace where all kinds of shops were. The southwest of the city was the residential area, and the northwest of the city was the military camp and the armory of the cultivators guarding the city. The Wang family found an inn in the east of the city to stay. This inn was called Immortal Inn, which was the property of the Yang family. After staying in the inn, the 6 elders of the Wang family went back to their rooms to rest, and the others discussed in the patriarch's room. Soon, someone came to the door. The person was wearing a blue robe with the symbol of the Yang family's Yang tree. His face was similar to Yang Yong, and he should be the direct descendant of Yang Yong. When Wang Jian saw the person, he quickly got up and said, "Brother Ziyuan, what's the matter?" The person was called Yang Ziyuan, the eldest grandson of Yang Yong, and the current patriarch of the Yang family. Wang Daoyuan quickly moved a chair and said, "Senior, please sit down." Yang Ziyuan did not refuse, sat down and said, "Brother Jian, I already know what happened outside the city gate today. Elder Jin and Liang Liang are the same people, and they have always advocated to completely eliminate the old family. Most people in the Netherworld sect do not agree with this approach. This group of people took a step back and suppressed the old family to snatch resources. Elder Jin has a high position and power in the Netherworld sect. Even grandfather does not dare to provoke him. In the future, the Wang family should avoid the Jin family as much as possible to avoid being found trouble by the Jin family." Although Wang Jian was very unhappy, he also knew that the Wang family could not afford to offend the Jin family. No matter how good the relationship between the Wang and Yang families was, it was also impossible to let the Yang family risk their lives for them. If their strength was not enough, they could only pretend to be subservient. Wang Jian sighed and said, "Brother Ziyuan, don't worry. I know the severity of the matter. My Wang family's disciples will avoid the Jin family." Yang Ziyuan nodded and said, "Then I'm relieved. When the time comes, the Wang family and my Yang family will act together. No matter how rude and unreasonable the Jin family is, they will not find trouble in front of the Yang family." Chapter 27. Hearing Yang Ziyuan's arrangement, Wang Jian also breathed a sigh of relief. At least during the demonic beast cleanup period, the Jin family wouldn't come looking for trouble. As for afterwards, the 2 families were separated by tens of thousands of miles and had no business dealings. Even if the Jin family was a mad dog, they wouldn't go to the Jade Spring Peak to cause trouble for such a small matter. Yang Ziyuan bid farewell and left. So cowardly, Wang Daoxing was furious. The Jin family caused trouble, but they didn't punish them at all. Instead, they made us cowards. Wang Jian said, "Daoyuan, what do you think?" "Endure. What else?" Wang Daoyuan whispered, "The walls have ears." Wang Jian laughed and said, "I really didn't misjudge you. Daoyuan, You can see the pros and cons at such a young age. This time, your family was bullied, but you swallowed it and didn't show it. When we were outside the city, you could see that Jin Yugui wanted to attack me. You're even more cautious than me. Although your cultivation aptitude isn't good, you're still a promising talent. This time, I brought you with me to let you gain more experience. In the family, there are people with high cultivation aptitudes, people who are experienced in human relationships, and people who are proficient in the arts of cultivation. But what we lack the most is a leader. In the Shou generation, only your 12th uncle has this potential. Unfortunately, Shui has an idle personality and isn't willing to take on this burden. In your generation, only you and Daochang have the potential to be leaders. Daochang has the highest cultivation aptitude and puts all his energy into cultivation. He's still too inexperienced in this aspect. You, on the other hand, are so experienced at such a young age. If I didn't watch you grow up, I would really suspect that you're an old monster in disguise. If you can build your foundation in the future, you'll definitely be the leader of the family. Even if you can't build your foundation, you can still take charge. After hearing Wang Jian's words, Wang Daoyuan felt a lingering fear in his heart. In his previous life, he had followed the old Taoist to swindle people. He relied on seeing the ways of the world and grasping opportunities to make a living. In this aspect, the old Taoist had taught him well. He had thought that since the mortals of this world were still in the agricultural civilization phase, and the immortal cultivators pursued immortality all their lives, they should not be as sophisticated as the people in the information explosion era. Now, it seemed that he had underestimated the people of this world. He didn't expect that his abnormality had already been noticed by the clan leader. Fortunately, the one who noticed him was the clan leader, and not the enemy. It seemed that he had to restrain himself in the future. There was a lingering fear in his heart, but he did not show it on his face. He said modestly, "Fifth great uncle, you flatter me." Wang Jian said seriously, "I can't be wrong about people. It's good that you know modesty. Remember, showing your cleverness isn't true cleverness. Great wisdom is great wisdom if you don't show your cleverness. Of course, it's already very rare for someone of your age to be so shrewd." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I will remember fifth granduncle's teachings." The underworld sect was still gathering people. The official time for the operation was set to be 5 days later. Everyone in the Wang family was strictly ordered by the patriarch not to take even half a step out of the inn. The few elders had lived for more than 100 years. What kind of hardships had they not experienced? What kind of scenes had they not seen? Being cooped up in the house was nothing. Although Wang Shui liked to stroll, as long as there was wine, he could endure anywhere. Wang Daoyuan had just been locked up for a few years. Not being able to go out for a few days was nothing. He took a spirit-gathering pill with the spiritual honey and started to cultivate. Wang Daoxing had the temperament of a young man. The Jin family matter had already made him hold back a belly full of anger. Now that he couldn't go out, the unhappiness in his heart could be imagined. He was not in the mood to cultivate and had nothing to do. When he had nothing to do, he went to find Wang Shui to have a drinking contest. Unfortunately, his alcohol tolerance was really low. After drinking a jar of wine, he was drunk until he lost consciousness. Wang Shui looked at Wang Daoxing with disdain. "You dare to have a drinking contest with me with this level of alcohol tolerance?" In the blink of an eye, it was already the day to set out to sweep the demonic beasts. Wang Jian gathered everyone and warned them to stick together and not act on their own. Then, Wang Jiming took out pills and distributed them to everyone. Everyone received 10 antidote pills, rejuvenation pills and spirit recovery pills each. Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui did not ask for spirit recovery pills. These things could not be compared to spirit wine. This was especially true for scarlet blood brew. Its main ingredient was scarlet blood ginseng, which could replenish blood qi. Not only could scarlet blood brew quickly recover spirit energy, it could also replenish blood qi, eliminate fatigue, and treat external injuries. Furthermore, scarlet blood brew did not have pill toxins like spirit recovery pills. Wang Daoyuan also took out spirit talismans. Everyone received 5 offensive, defensive, divine and earth escape spirit talismans each. Looking at the spirit talismans in his hand, Wang Jian asked, Daoyuan, where did you get so many spirit talismans? Wang Daoyuan chuckled. After being locked up for 4 years, I had nothing to do other than cultivate, so I refined a few more spirit talismans. Don't worry about me. I still have a few hundred superior grade 1 spirit talismans. If anyone needs spirit talismans, feel free to ask me for them. Wang Jian nodded in satisfaction. Looks like Daoyuan's talisman crafting talent is extraordinary. You still have time to refine so many spirit talismans after completing the talisman crafting mission every month. You need cultivation resources even more. The clan can't let you work for free. When we return, I'll give you 1,000 clan contribution points. The price of a superior grade 1 spirit talisman ranged from 2 or 3 spirit stones to 10 spirit stones. The average price was around 5 spirit stones. Defensive spirit talismans and escape spirit talismans were a bit more expensive, while offensive spirit talismans were a bit cheaper. After all, protecting one's life was more important. 1 clan contribution point of the Wang clan was equivalent to 1 spirit stone. 200 spirit talismans were worth 1,000 contribution points. It was not a loss. The Netherworld sect ordered all participating cultivators to gather at the crossroads in the center of the city. After gathering, they saw 3 Zifu realm cultivators standing side by side at the center of the crossroads. Coincidentally, Wang Daoyuan knew all of them. One of them was Elder Zhou of Clear Glass Market. On Elder Zhou's left was Lu Jinhui, and on his right was the black-robed old man, who stopped Lu Jinhui from punishing Jin Yugui at the city gate. Elder Zhou took a step forward and cupped his hands towards the surrounding cultivators. I am Zhou Qi, the chief commander of this cleanup operation. On behalf of the Netherworld sect, I would like to thank everyone for coming to help. I hope everyone can work together to wipe out the demonic beasts in one fell swoop. I guarantee that the Netherworld sect will reward anyone who has rendered meritorious service in this operation. However, I have to say the ugly words first. If you don't listen to orders, act without authorization, flee at the last minute, or let the enemy become a patient behead. All the cultivators responded in unison, yes. After Zhou Qi finished speaking, Lu Jinhui stepped forward and said, I am Lu Jinhui, the deputy commander of this operation. Elder Zhou has said what needs to be said, so I will directly assign tasks to everyone. After speaking, he took out a few jade slips and called over the leaders of several powerful clans. These were all descendants of the Netherworld sect's elders. Yang Ziyuan, Jin Yugui, and Liang Jiaxing were among them. After a while, Yang Ziyuan took a jade slip and walked back to the cultivators of his clan. He chose a dozen or so clans that he had a good relationship with to act together. The clans that Yang Ziyuan chose were all old clans. The Wang and Li clans were among them. After the leaders of the clans were selected, Lu Jinhui opened his mouth again. The leaders who came up to receive the task just now are the captains of each squad. The clans that are selected by the squad captains will be under their command. The orders of the squad captains are the orders of the 3 of us. If there is any disobedience, behead without mercy. The captains will act separately according to their own tasks. Chapter 28. The Wang clan and a dozen other clans followed Yang Ziyuan to the bottom of a small hill. The Guiyan Valley was roughly north-south, but the mountain paths rarely went straight, and the Guiyan Valley was no exception. Although there were no twists and turns, there were still a few dangerous places. And the Carriage Gorge was one of the most dangerous places. The Carriage Gorge was about 3 miles long, and as the name suggested, the valley was only 1 carriage wide. The hill where everyone was lying in ambush was 3 miles east of the Carriage Gorge. The right side of the hill was a flat land about 200 feet wide, leading to the depths of the forest. On the right side of the flat land were large and small peaks, which were defended by other teams. The left side of the hill was a cliff. The Carriage Gorge was more than 3,000 miles away from the Golden Goose City, and more than 300 miles away from the Guiyan Market. If something happened here, both sides would not be able to rescue in time. Therefore, the Carriage Gorge was the place where the caravan was most frequently attacked. Although Yang Ziyuan hadn't told everyone about their respective missions, Wang Daoyuan could roughly guess that their mission was most likely to be to stop the fleeing demonic beasts. After that, Yang Ziyuan gave everyone 2 aura-concealing talismans. The aura-concealing talisman could conceal the aura emitted by the cultivator. Whether it was the fluctuation of mana or the smell, it would not leak out. The purpose of the underworld sect's aura-concealing talisman was very clear. It was an ambush. There were many beasts scattered in the forest, and if they wanted to ambush, they would have to attract the beasts. At this time, Wang Daoyuan saw a caravan coming along the carriage gorge a few miles away in the south. This caravan had a lot of people, more than 20 carriages, and about 100 people. Because of the distance, he could not feel the aura of the cultivators, and could not judge their cultivation. In order to adapt to the terrain, the carriages on the Guoyin Valley Road were very strange. The length of the carriages varied from 2 to 5 feet, and the width was less than 5 feet, which was very slender. This caravan was no exception, about 3 feet long, and was pulled by 2 beasts that looked very similar to horses. This beast was called the forest horse. It did not run fast, but it was good at running in the forest and had great strength. It was a very common beast used for transportation. The caravan continued forward, and soon reached the center of the carriage gorge, which was also the narrowest part of the carriage gorge. If they were attacked, the caravan would be in a dilemma. It was very likely that the demonic beasts would launch an attack here. Everyone became nervous. Even Yang Ziyuan transmitted his voice. Without my order, no one is allowed to act rashly. Those who disobey will be beheaded. As time passed, everyone's hearts rose to their throats. Wang Daoyuan could even hear the heartbeats of the people nearby. However, the expected attack did not happen. The caravan at the front had already exited the carriage gorge, and everything was still calm. Very quickly, the entire caravan drove out of the carriage gorge. They had passed through the easiest place to be attacked. Everyone in the caravan heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the demonic beasts did not intend to attack the caravan. Everyone who was lying in ambush outside the carriage gorge felt relieved. Wang Daoyuan also withdrew his profound yang sword. After exiting the carriage gorge, the mountain path was even wider, and could accommodate many carriages side by side. In order to make it easier to manage, the leader ordered the caravan to be split into 3 groups instead of 1. The leader's prestige was quite high. With an order, everyone in the caravan immediately disrupted their original groups and rearranged themselves. Everything seemed to be coordinated and natural. Suddenly, a black gust of wind came from the front and headed straight for the caravan. In the caravan, 11 cultivators soared into the sky on their artifacts. The leader was dressed in a gray robe and did not look like a cultivator at all. Instead, he looked like a butler of a rich family. However, the gray-robe cultivator was not weak. As soon as the gust of wind rose, he took out a flying sword and flew into the air. He took out a horsetail whisk and waved it gently. A black beam collided with the gust of wind, and a few explosions sounded. The gust of wind paused for a moment before continuing to rush over. However, the wind was slightly weaker. The other cultivators who flew into the air on their artifacts followed suit, and took out their Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans to attack the gust of wind. The wind gradually weakened, but it was getting closer and closer to the caravan. The foundation establishment cultivators in the caravan were unable to disperse the gust of wind before it reached them. The black gust of wind rushed into the caravan. Many chi refinement cultivators could not fly on their artifacts and could not hide in the air. Those who reacted quickly hid behind the carriages. Those who reacted slowly could only take out their Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans to resist. The gust of wind hit the cultivators, forest-piercing foals and carriages, flashing with colorful lights. There were all sorts of Dharma spells hidden in the black gust of wind. After hundreds of colorful lights flashed, the gust of wind dissipated. In the caravan, more than 50 forest-piercing foals were dead. After all, they could not take out their Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans to defend themselves. More than 10 cultivators' Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans were shattered, and they died on the spot. More than 20 cultivators were in tatters, and their faces were pale. It was clear that they were severely injured and had no strength to fight anymore. The remaining 60 or so people reacted quickly. The moment they saw the gust of wind, they hid behind the carriages and took out their Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans. Most of the attacks were blocked by the carriages. A small portion of the attacks were also blocked by the protective Dharma artifacts and spirit talismans. They only lost some spirit energy and were not injured. Their combat strength was not affected much. Looking at the situation of the 20 or so carriages, they should be specially made. One had to admit that the quality was really good. After being hit by the Dharma spells, only a few shallow marks were left. In the valley ahead, where the gust of wind blew, a group of demon beasts appeared. There was a giant multicolored tiger, a black bear the size of a small mountain, and a black wolf the size of a cow. There was also a black eagle with a wingspan of more than 10 meters, and some golden feathers on its body. The 4 demon beasts were at the front of the group of demon beasts, as if 4 generals were leading an army. Behind the tiger, black bear, and black wolf were more than 2,000 different types of beasts. Behind the condor were more than 1,000 different types of bird-type demon beasts. When the gray-robed cultivator of the caravan saw the situation, he ordered decisively, "Those who can still stand, listen up. Arrange the carriages into a circular formation and prepare to defend against the enemy." Upon hearing the order, the chi refinement cultivators who were still alive moved immediately. With the forest-piercing foals dead, they could only rely on people to pull the carriages. For the sake of their lives, they were still very proactive. Some cultivators even took out their god power talismans. In less than 10 breaths, more than 20 carriages surrounded the city in a circle with all the chi refinement cultivators in it. Then, they took out spirit crossbows and loaded them with spirit stones. The refinement stage cultivators who had escaped from death like headless flies instantly turned into fully armed elites. In Wang Daoyuan's opinion, these chi refinement cultivators had the circle formation of carriages as cover. It was really similar to the positional warfare of his previous life. The caravan cultivators were too fast, and there were more than 10 foundation establishment cultivators guarding in the air. The demon beasts did not have time to attack, and missed the best opportunity to attack. But now, the caravan was already in position, and could not be taken down easily. However, with thousands of demon beasts gathered, it was impossible for them to retreat just because of a little trouble. A few grade 2 demon beasts roared a few times and 500 to 600 bears, rhinoceroses and other thick-skinned demon beasts walked out from the herd. With a roar from the tiger, the 500 to 600 demon beasts charged towards the caravan. Chapter 29. The distance between the beast horde and the caravan was only about 2 kilometers. Even though the demonic beasts leading the charge had thick skin and were not known for their speed, they still had cultivation. Spurring on his spiritual power, he would be able to reach the range of the spirit crossbow within 20 breaths of time. The cultivators of the caravan all held their spirit crossbows and aimed at the incoming beast horde, ready to fire. After more than 10 breaths, the beast horde was only 100 feet away from the carriage formation. The gray-robed cultivator shouted, "Fire!" More than 80 cultivators activated their spirit crossbows at the same time. The spirit stones placed on the spirit crossbows flashed, and a spirit chi arrow shot out. More than 80 spirit chi arrows were not enough to shoot hundreds of demonic beasts. Moreover, these demonic beasts had thick skin and thick flesh. The first wave of arrows only took down 5 or 6 demonic beasts, and they were only injured. No demonic beasts died. However, these spirit crossbows could be fired consecutively. After the first wave of arrows, the second wave of arrows fell in half a breath's time. This time, the demonic beasts were not in a hurry to dodge and more were injured. However, no demonic beasts died. The third wave, the fourth wave. As the distance between the two sides got closer and closer, the power of the arrow rain also increased. The fifth wave of arrows fell, and more than 20 demonic beasts fell. Moreover, a black bear happened to be shot in the eye. The spirit arrow went through the eye socket and pierced into the back of its head. The black bear died on the spot. In the sixth wave of arrows, more than 30 demonic beasts fell and 5 died. At this moment, Some demonic beasts who had comprehended innate spells also began to use spells to counterattack. However, when their spells hit the carriage formation, they could only hear a sound and had no effect at all. Using spells would slow down the charging speed, which was really not worth it. The demonic beast stopped attacking with spells and charged forward. After another 3 waves of arrows, more than 100 demonic beasts fell on the battlefield. More than 30 of them died. The more than 300 demonic beasts who could still charge were all injured. This group of demonic beasts who were leading the charge no longer had the heart to fight and fled. The 10th wave of arrows fell. Because the demonic beasts were running in a disorderly manner, only 50 or so were taken down. After the 10th wave of arrows, the spirit stones on the spirit crossbows were exhausted and needed to be replaced with new spirit stones. It would take 3 breaths of time to replace the spirit stones and reactivate the spirit crossbow. The demon beasts made full use of this short period of time. With a speed faster than when they were charging, they ran out of the killing range of the spirit crossbow and even saved some of their injured and fallen companions. After the cultivators of the trade caravan exchanged the spirit stones, they continued to shoot arrows at the severely injured monster beasts on the ground. After 3 waves of arrows, the severely injured demonic beasts on the ground were all dealt with. Of the 500 to 600 demonic beasts, less than half were able to retreat. The 4 rank 2 demonic beasts were furious. They sent out more than 300 leopards, wolves, and other demonic beasts that were known for their speed. This time, they had learned their lesson from their previous failure. They didn't rush up like a swarm of bees. Instead, they spread out and attacked from multiple directions. As a result, the spirit crossbows of the caravan cultivators could no longer fire in unison. They could only scatter and deal with different enemies. Although this group of demon beasts were nimble, and the spirit crossbows couldn't be fired in unison, only a few demon beasts were hit. However, they didn't have scales or tough fur. Once they were hit, they would either be injured or fall to the ground, or die. As soon as the demonic beasts entered the range of the spirit crossbows, casualties began to appear. However, only a few demonic beasts lost their ability to fight. Not being able to fire in unison seriously weakened the lethality of the spirit crossbows. After 10 breaths, the demonic beasts rushed to the front of the carriage formation. The loss was less than 100. With the nimble speed of the demonic beasts, they easily jumped over the outer carriages and charged into the group of cultivators. All the demonic beasts roared excitedly. There were more than 200 demonic beasts that rushed into the carriage formation, while the caravan cultivators only had about 80 people. The space in the carriage formation was narrow, and there was no room to dodge or move. They could only rely on hand-to-hand combat. The bodies of demonic beasts were far stronger than that of human cultivators of the same level. In addition, they had an absolute advantage in numbers. Under normal circumstances, the human cultivators would be wiped out in less than 15 minutes. The cultivators of the clan who were lying in ambush near the small hill were a little restless. Wang Daoxing was even prepared to shout and rush out to help. However, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Wang Shui was already prepared and pressed him down. There was a huge gap between their cultivation and combat ability. Wang Daoxing couldn't even move. Wang Daoyuan also immediately covered his mouth to prevent him from shouting. Seeing that everyone was moving, Yang Ziyuan transmitted his voice again. Those who act rashly will die. At this time, in the carriage formation in the valley, the sound of spells colliding rose and fell one after another. Colorful flashes were incessant. The dust and smoke covered the sky and the sun. The people outside the carriage formation couldn't see the situation inside. The foundation establishment cultivators in the air were also constantly attacking the demonic beasts. Unfortunately, the results were minimal. 15 minutes passed and the battle was still going on. However, there were demonic beasts constantly fleeing outside the formation. Another 15 minutes passed, and the battle was basically over. The dust and smoke dispersed, and everyone could finally see the battle situation clearly. In the small carriage formation, the ground was covered with demonic beast corpses. At a rough glance, there were more than 100 corpses. The caravan didn't have it easy either. Of the 80 cultivators, 30 were dead and 20 were injured. Among them, 10 were seriously injured and no longer had the strength to fight. Whether it was the demonic beasts or the people lying in ambush, they didn't expect this result. Wang Daoyuan understood a little. The ground near the carriage formation was covered with shredded paper. In his professional eyes, these should be broken talisman papers. Some of the cultivators still had golden armor talismans on their bodies and golden armor shadows on their bodies. A conservative estimate was that more than 5,000 talismans had been used in the battle just now. On average, each cultivator used more than 60 talismans. More than 60 talismans were nothing to Wang Daoyuan. However, he was a talisman master, and it was normal for him to have many talismans. Cultivators who didn't know how to make talismans usually didn't have more than 20 talismans. First, everyone had a spirit crossbow, then thousands of talismans, and specially reinforced indestructible carriages. This caravan's configuration was too luxurious. Wang Daoyuan was a little puzzled. The battle in front of him was full of strangeness. The caravan in the valley was obviously bait to attract the demonic beasts. The purpose of the bait was to fish. Once the fish took the bait would be worthless. Why would the Netherworld sect spend so much money to equip this bait? The Netherworld sect was an evil sect, not a charity. It was impossible for them to spend so much money to protect bait that had no value. In addition, the behavior of this group of demonic beasts was also extremely strange. First, the demonic beasts used the Black Gale to hide their spells and increase the range of their spells. Then, they sent out thick-skinned demonic beasts to launch a probing attack. After the probing failed, they accurately judged the weakness of the spirit crossbows and changed their tactics, successfully turning the battle into a chaotic battle. This series of operations completely exceeded the intelligence level of the demonic beasts, and even reached the level of an excellent human commander. Demonic beasts of rank 2, and above all had innate spells that could strengthen their bodies or launch long-range attacks. However, this Black Gale was powerful and had a long range. Moreover, it could increase the range of spells. It was definitely not something that ordinary demonic beasts could have. Chapter 30. Wang Daoyuan had read many books about demon beasts, but he had never heard of any demon beast that had such a strange dermic art. The demon beasts present were all common demon beasts, and there were no mutants. However, this trade caravan seemed to be stalling for time. Although the trade caravan had fewer people compared to the demon beasts in terms of numbers, they had an absolute advantage in terms of foundation establishment cultivators. However, the foundation establishment cultivators of the trade caravan did not make use of their advantage to take the initiative to attack and reduce the pressure on the chi refinement cultivators on their side. The first time the demon beasts attacked, the foundation establishment cultivators did not make a move at all. In the second test, they only helped the demonic beasts after they rushed into the carriage formation. When the demonic beasts scattered in all directions, they did not stop them. Wang Daoyuan could see more than 1,000 cultivators lying in ambush in the east of Guoyin Valley. Usually, the demon beasts hid in the dense forest to the west of Guoyin Valley, and there should be more cultivators lying in ambush there. These people could charge down and deal with the demon beasts in the valley without any pressure at all. The reason why they did not make a move was most likely because the fish were too small. With too little information, Wang Daoyuan was unable to deduce too much information. He decided not to think about it and observed the situation carefully, waiting for the moment the mystery was revealed. In the valley, the demon beasts were naturally indignant after their second failure and were preparing for their third attack. The black condor shrieked in the air and dived towards the carriage formation with more than 1,000 flying beasts following closely behind. Given the speed of the flying beasts, they could reach the carriage formation in 5 breaths at most. Compared to walking beasts, flying beasts were faster and more agile. Even the spirit crossbows could not hit many of them, and the spirit talismans could not threaten them at all. This time, the foundation establishment cultivators of the trade caravan no longer feigned ignorance and made a move the moment the black condor charged. 11 foundation establishment cultivators rushed forward. Then, 11 flying swords soared into the air and pierced through the flock of flying beasts, causing blood to splatter. Colorful feathers fluttered down from the air. The corpses of flying beasts of all sizes fell to the ground. In just a single breath, more than 100 flying beasts were turned into ghosts under the swords. The flying beasts were not fools and did not dare to charge at the Foundation establishment cultivators directly. They scattered and the menacing attack was neutralized once more. The rank 2 demonic beasts naturally couldn't just sit by and watch. They all roared and led the rest of the demonic beasts to charge forward. Black Condor also reorganized his flying beasts to interfere with the caravan cultivators and cover the beast horde. Seeing the demonic beasts swarm out, the caravan immediately responded. The gray-robed cultivator took on the Black Condor alone, while 3 other Foundation establishment cultivators were sent to hold back the other 3 Class 2 demonic beasts. Of the remaining 7 Foundation establishment cultivators, 4 continued to slaughter the birds, while the other 3 attacked the demonic beasts on land. The Chi refining stage cultivators were not idle either. They lifted the roof of the carriage, revealing the big killing weapon in the carriage, the giant spiritual crossbow, which was no different from the spiritual crossbow on the wall of Golden Goose City. Immediately after, the Chi refinement cultivator took out a middle-grade spirit stone and installed it on the giant crossbow. Wang Daoyuan was not proficient in the art of refining and could not discern the grade of these giant spirit crossbows. However, he was certain that these giant crossbows were at least second-tier magic tools. Coupled with the mid-grade spirit stones, the giant crossbow definitely had the ability to kill a Foundation establishment cultivator. There were more than 20 carriages, which meant that there were more than 20 giant crossbows. Originally, if the demonic beast swarmed forward, the carriage formation would definitely be broken. Now that there were these giant crossbows, the outcome was still unknown. The Chi refining stage cultivators quickly activated the giant crossbows, and more than 20 arm-thick light beams shot out, heading straight for the demonic beasts. In an instant, the light beams crossed a distance of 1 mile and penetrated into the demonic beasts. The demonic beasts learned their lesson from the first attack and did not gather together, but scattered. However, more than 2,000 demonic beasts gathered in the narrow valley. No matter how scattered they were, it was impossible to appear sparse. More than 20 light beams struck, and hundreds of demonic beasts were in the path of the light beams. Seeing the light beams coming towards them, these hundreds of demonic beasts immediately dodged. Unfortunately, compared to the light beams, the demonic beasts were too slow. The demonic beasts at the front had just made a dodging action when they were pierced by the light beams. Only the agile demonic beasts at the back managed to escape the calamity. More than 20 light beams dug more than 20 channels in the demonic beasts. More than 200 demonic beasts died, and the loss was more than 1/10 of the demonic beasts. The only flaw was that none of the Class 2 demonic beasts died. However, they were also shocked by the light beams. The only thing that made the demonic beasts feel fortunate was that a mid-grade spirit stone could only be used once for the giant crossbows. After the light beams were released, the Chi refining stage cultivators immediately replaced them with new mid-grade spirit stones. Replacing the spirit stones took 3 breaths of time, and the demonic beasts took the opportunity to rush forward. With the demonic beast's current speed, the giant crossbows could only shoot 2 more arrows at most. After 2 arrows, the demonic beasts could kill their way into the carriage formation. After 3 breaths, the second arrow was shot. The demonic beasts were too close, and apart from the Class 2 demonic beasts, they were completely unable to react in time and died directly under the light beams. More than 20 channels were plowed through the demonic beasts by the light beams, and nearly 400 demonic beasts died. In addition to the Foundation establishment stage cultivators' flying swords, there were less than 2,000 demonic beasts left. The demonic beasts were frightened, and some of them had already begun to flee. However, under the roar of the Class 2 demonic beasts, the fleeing demonic beasts returned to the demonic beasts and braced themselves to continue charging forward. Another 3 breaths passed, and the third wave of light beams arrived as scheduled. This time, The demonic beasts' casualties were even greater, and more than 600 demonic beasts fell. There were only a little more than 1,000 land demonic beasts left, and the demonic beasts that were lucky enough to survive almost collapsed. The 3 rounds of arrow rain had already beaten the demonic beasts' courage. Even though they were only one step away from the carriage formation, most of the demonic beasts still did not dare to jump in. The land demonic beasts were hesitant to advance, but the birds, on the other hand, advanced bravely. Whether it was the giant crossbows, hand crossbows, or spirit talismans, none of them could pose a fatal threat to the birds. The birds were most afraid of the flying swords of the Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators. However, after being slaughtered by the Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators, the birds became even more scattered. Because they were flying in the air, and were not restricted by the narrow terrain, more than 1,000 birds flew everywhere. The flying swords of the Foundation Establishment Stage cultivators could only kill 1 or 2 birds each time they passed through the flock. Relying on their advantage in speed and agility, the birds easily killed the carriage formation. A goshawk at the peak of the Class 1 swooped down. Its figure changed several times in the air, successfully dodging a few light arrows shot by a small spirit crossbow and a few spirit talisman attacks, and pounced on an old man. Seeing the goshawk pounce on him, the old man threw away his spirit crossbow and was about to take out something to fight. Unfortunately, his speed was too slow, and the goshawk's claw caught him on the top of his head. The goshawk released its claw and forcefully kicked the old man's head, flapped its wings a few times, and flew back into the air. 4 bloody holes appeared on the old man's head, and blood flowed all over his face. The old man seemed to be very unwilling, and after struggling a few times, he finally fell down powerlessly. Similar scenes played out continuously in the carriage formation. Seeing the birds slaughtering the cultivators of the caravan effortlessly, the land demonic beasts also regained a trace of courage and rushed into the carriage formation to participate in the chaotic battle. The situation was set, and the caravan was powerless to reverse the situation. Under the joint attack of more than 2,000 demonic beasts, only death awaited them. Soon, there were less than 10 cultivators left in the carriage formation. Even those who were alive were all heavily injured. 3 of them took out Earth Escape talismans and escaped underground. The other cultivators did not have Earth Escape talismans, and after a while, they all died in the hands of the demonic beasts. Chapter 31. The Netherworld sect truly did not care about the life and death of Chi refinement cultivators, and did not distribute Earth Escape talismans at all. The 3 cultivators who escaped had also brought their own Earth Escape talismans. Seeing that the battle in the carriage formation had ended, the Foundation Establishment cultivators did not dare to continue fighting. Earlier on, the demon beast's target had always been the carriage formation, and they could slaughter the demon beasts wantonly from the side. But now that the carriage formation had been broken, they were the demon beasts' only target. Most of the beasts could not do anything to them. Only a few beasts could release a few long-range innate spells to attack the Flying Foundation Establishment cultivators, but it was very difficult to hit them. The demon beasts were a great threat to the Foundation Establishment cultivators. When Foundation Establishment cultivators flew on their artifacts, their speed was faster than ordinary rank 1 demon beasts. However, in terms of agility in the air, no cultivator below the Golden Core realm could compare to an ordinary rank 1 demon beast. Surrounded by more than 1,000 late-stage rank 1 demon beasts, including a rank 2 black condor, and coupled with the long-range dermic attacks of the demon beasts on the ground, the 11 Foundation Establishment cultivators could very well die here. The 11 Foundation Establishment cultivators immediately flew towards the east of the valley, where Wang Daoyuan and the others were lying in ambush. However, the demon beasts were not willing to let them go. Under the command of the Black Condor, more than 1,000 demon beasts began to encircle and intercept the Foundation Establishment cultivators. The gray-robed cultivator flew at the front on his sword, and the other Foundation Establishment cultivators followed closely behind, attempting to break through the demon beast's encirclement in one fell swoop. The Black Condor did not fight him head-on, and only flew in front of the gray-robed cultivator, releasing innate spells continuously. The other rank 1 demon beasts followed suit, and did not fight the Foundation establishment cultivators head-on. Instead, they released spells in all directions, or launched sneak attacks directly at them. In order to increase their speed, the Foundation establishment cultivators poured all the spirit energy in their bodies into their dermic weapons, not daring to waste a single bit elsewhere. If they retaliated, they would slow down their flying speed and allow more demon beasts to catch up. If they did not retaliate, they would be attacked continuously and beaten to death. Helpless, they could only continuously take out defensive spirit talismans and stick them on their bodies, temporarily blocking the attacks of the demon beasts. However, there were simply too many attacks, and the moment the spirit talismans were released, they were destroyed instantly. If this continued, none of the 11 would be able to escape. The gray-robed cultivator made a prompt decision and shouted, "Scatter and break out!" The 11 Foundation establishment cultivators each chose a direction and ran for their lives. Splitting up to break through the encirclement was indeed effective. The demonic birds swore to get rid of everyone. 1,000 or so demonic birds were divided into 11 groups, each of them surrounding the 11 Foundation establishment cultivators. There were less than 100 demon birds in each flock, and the black eagle was the only rank 2 demon bird. Without rank 2 demonic birds, it would be very difficult to surround a Foundation establishment cultivator with less than 100 rank 1 demonic birds. The gray-robe cultivator was the strongest, and the black condor participated in the encirclement. Before they split up to break out of the encirclement, the gray-robed cultivator stood at the front and was able to protect himself. Now there were less than 100 rank 1 demon birds and a black condor. Although they couldn't defeat them in a head-on battle, it was still very easy for them to retreat. He stepped on a flying sword, holding a horsetail whisk in one hand and a talisman in the other. His body was covered in a thick layer of golden light. When the spell of the First Order demon bird hit the light barrier, it only caused a slight ripple. Only the wind arrow spell from the black condor's wings hit the light barrier, causing it to dim a little. It would take at least 10 wind arrow techniques to break the light barrier. Even rank 2 demonic beasts did not have the ability to release 10 destiny spells in a short period of time. Without the omnidirectional attacks of the large group of demon birds, his speed was much faster. Of the demon birds that surrounded him, only the black condor could keep up with him. The others were left behind. When the black condor released a spell, he would receive it with his protective light barrier. When the black condor attacked him in close combat, he would chase it away with his horsetail whisk. When the followers behind caught up, he would throw a few talismans. It could be said that the small group of demon birds could do nothing to him. He was not in a hurry to escape either. Instead, he led the group of demon birds in circles. To Wang Daoyuan, this was to buy time for the others to escape. Once he escaped, the black condor would definitely surround the others. They did not have the strength of the gray-robed cultivator. Now that the gray-robed cultivator's efforts were effective, the other Foundation establishment cultivators were also relaxed. Without the interference of rank 2 demonic beasts, none of the less than 100 rank 1 demonic birds could catch up to the Foundation establishment cultivators, who were flying at full speed. Only a few of the demonic beasts on the ground could release long-range spells. However, they did not dare to do so for fear of accidentally injuring the demon birds. Like the gray-robed cultivator, the other Foundation establishment cultivators were not in a hurry to leave the battlefield. Instead, they led the small group of demon birds in circles. Wang Daoyuan could not help but find it strange. Both sides had been fighting for so long, and the cultivators had been flying at full speed on their weapons. They should not have much spirit energy left. On the other hand, the demon bird's ability to fly was innate, and did not consume spirit energy at all. It was a piece of cake for them to fly for a few days. If the Foundation establishment cultivators were to continue fighting like this, they would definitely die once their spirit energy was exhausted. The chase did not last long. Soon, the sounds of birds chirping and beasts roaring could be heard from the west of returning Goose Valley. A moment later, a group of demon birds flew over from afar. Among them, 4 of them were flying at the same speed as the black condor. They should be rank 2 demonic birds as well. The 4 rank 2 demonic birds pounced towards an early-stage Foundation Establishment cultivator. This Foundation Establishment cultivator had the lowest cultivation and was the weakest among the 11 of them. It was difficult for him to take on a rank 2 demonic bird alone. Furthermore, this Foundation Establishment cultivator had expended too much spirit energy and could not even defend himself against the attacks of the 4 rank 2 demonic birds. After throwing out a few spirit talismans, he died to the sharp claws of the demonic birds. Another group of demon beasts sprinted out of the forest. 7 of them were clearly larger than their peers and should be ranked 2 demonic beasts. There were more than 10,000 demon beasts and demon birds added together. When he saw that, the gray-robed cultivator laughed instead of getting angry. The mission is complete. Retreat. The remaining 10 Foundation Establishment cultivators did not take a stroll and fled towards the east. There was no way the demon birds would give up just like that when they had the absolute advantage. The 3,000-odd demon birds that came later joined with the 1,000 demon beasts from before and chased after the Foundation Establishment cultivators relentlessly. 3 early-stage Foundation Establishment cultivators did not have enough spirit energy and were caught by the demon birds, dying an unnatural death. The other 7 managed to escape to where Wang Daoyuan and the others were lying in ambush. Yang Ziyuan hollered, "Kill!" There were more than 20 Foundation Establishment cultivators and more than 300 Qi refinement cultivators in his team. After lying in ambush for half a day and watching the caravan cultivators fight with the demon beasts without being able to make a move, they were already impatient. The other teams of cultivators lying in ambush on the east side of Guoyan Valley struck as well, sending spirit talismans and flying swords everywhere. The demon birds were caught off guard and 500 to 600 of them died instantly. The demon birds retreated immediately, and the 7 Foundation Establishment cultivators managed to escape their pursuit. They landed behind Wang Daoyuan and the others who were lying in ambush and consumed elixirs to meditate and recover their spirit energy. When he saw the demon birds retreat, Yang Ziyuan immediately assigned missions to the various families. The Yang family and the other 7 families were to guard the plains on the right side of the hill. The Wang and Li families were to guard the small hill and prevent the demon birds from escaping. If there was a chance, they were to reinforce the right side. 2 families and 30-odd cultivators were to guard the left cliff to prevent the demon birds from escaping. If the demon birds did not take the initiative to attack, the Qi refinement cultivators did not have any means to attack them. Therefore, it was mainly up to the Foundation Establishment cultivators to stop the demon birds. The Qi refinement cultivators were only there to provide cover. A new week has begun. Please bookmark and recommend. I'll add a chapter tomorrow at midnight. In the future, I'll update a chapter at midnight and a chapter at 9:30 p.m. Chapter 32. The demonic beasts were not fools. Seeing thousands of people lying in ambush on the east side, they naturally did not dare to force their way in. The humans were already prepared. This time, they would not be able to take advantage of the situation. Under the lead of a few rank 2 demonic beasts, the group of beasts retreated to the west. The Netherworld sect had carefully set up a trap with more than 100 people as bait. The big fish had finally taken the bait. How could they let it escape? Of the 5,000 cultivators recruited by the Netherworld sect, only more than 100 were bait, and 1,000 were lying in ambush on the east side of the Guoyan Valley. The other 4,000 were not just for show. As expected, the demonic beasts retreating to the west side of the valley were hit by countless talismans and magic weapons as soon as they reached the edge of the valley. The demonic beasts immediately retreated and ran north along the valley. South was the carriage gorge. Going in was definitely a dead end. The demonic beasts did not dare to go in. The demonic beasts were not afraid. Some of them flew south. After fleeing to the north for less than a mile, hundreds of cultivators suddenly appeared and blocked the entrance of the valley. As soon as the demonic beasts approached, they were beaten up again. The demonic beasts that fled south were also fed. Before they could fly far, Dozens of flying swords rose into the air. In an instant, 200 to 300 demonic beasts fell down. Their feathers fell all over the ground. The cultivators blocking the two ends of the valley were dressed in a mess of strange clothes. They should be rogue cultivators recruited. Although they looked like a mob, their combat power was really not weak. They stunned the demonic beasts as soon as they attacked. Seeing the strength of the rogue cultivators, Wang Daoyuan secretly exclaimed in his heart. He thought that the rogue cultivators did not have a systematic inheritance and guidance. The path of cultivation was difficult, and the progress of cultivation was slow, so their strength should not be strong. But he did not expect the rogue cultivators to be so strong. Their combat power far exceeded that of the disciples of sects and clans of the same level. It seemed that he had to be careful when he met rogue cultivators in the future. In fact, not all rogue cultivators could fight. It was just that the rogue cultivators recruited by the Netherworld sect were at least in the late stage of chi refinement. Rogue cultivators did not have wealth, companions, spells, or land. Their aptitude was not very good. Those who could cultivate to the late stage of chi refinement had not gone through untold hardships. Not to mention the foundation establishment cultivators among the rogue cultivators. In terms of combat power, such people were naturally far stronger than the disciples of sects and clans who grew up in a greenhouse. The demonic beasts and demonic birds also saw that these rogue cultivators were not to be trifled with, so they did not dare to charge towards the rogue cultivators. Currently, they were surrounded on all sides, and none of them were easy to deal with. Staying where they were was equivalent to waiting for death. Regardless of whether it was easy to fight or not, they had to find a place to break out. After pondering for a while, the group of second-ranked demonic beasts all agreed to break out of the encirclement towards the flat ground on the east side of the canyon. The team that Wang Daoyuan was in was precisely the tiger that blocked the demonic beast's escape. At this point, the demonic beasts were all in a hurry to run for their lives. They didn't have the mood to test the waters and just charged forward. Seeing this, Yang Ziyuan ordered loudly, "Leave 10 foundation establishment cultivators to deal with the second-ranked demonic beast. The rest of the foundation establishment cultivators, go intercept the demonic bird." All the foundation establishment cultivators agreed. Then more than 20 foundation establishment cultivators shot into the sky and charged towards the demonic bird. Wang Jian was among them. Before Wang Jian left, he instructed the members of the Wang clan via voice transmission. "Dao Yuan is in charge of everything here. Those who dare to disobey Dao Yuan's orders will be served according to the clan's rules." Elder Wang Jiming and Elder Wang Shui. One was only interested in concocting pills, and the other was only interested in drinking wine. They were too lazy to care about the clan's affairs, so they naturally didn't have any objections. The other 6 were all wily old foxes. Since the 2 elders didn't have any objections, they also didn't dare to raise any objections. Wang Daoxing had a fiery temper, but he was a martial arts fanatic. He didn't have any feelings towards power or whatnot. As long as there was a fight, it was the same no matter who he listened to. Since everyone didn't have any objections, they tacitly approved of Wang Daoyuan's leadership position. Wang Jian then sent a voice transmission to Wang Daoyuan alone. "I believe in your ability. Try your best to let the clansmen return alive. You mustn't be too soft-hearted. When it's hard to have the best of both worlds, I believe you can make the right choice in order to protect the clan's future." Wang Daoyuan's heart trembled. The clan leader's words meant that if there was no other choice, they could give up on the 6 granduncles and save the lives of the 4 of them. These 6 granduncles' cultivation talent wasn't good, and they also didn't have any special skills. Usually, they were outside of Jade Spring Peak, taking care of the clan's various businesses. Wang Daoyuan had only seen them a few times, but they were still a family after all. Now that he might have to abandon them, Wang Daoyuan felt somewhat apologetic. However, he was also clear that if it really came down to a life-and-death situation, giving up on the 6 granduncles and giving the others a chance to survive was the best choice for the clan. As a clan's descendant, the survival of the clan was the most important thing. Personal life and death could only be placed second. The 6 granduncles were already old. Between passing away in a sitting posture in the cave, or dying in a battle outside, they hoped that dying in a battle could also be exchanged for some cultivation resources for their descendants. As long as their descendants were still alive, and the clan's legacy continued, their achievements wouldn't be forgotten. Thinking up to this point, Wang Daoyuan also felt relieved. Immediately after, he announced everyone's battle mission. The 6 granduncles didn't have any special skills. Their cultivations were also at the 7th or 8th layer of qi refining, but they were experienced with age. Perhaps they didn't have any praiseworthy skills when it came to killing enemies, but when it came to preserving their lives, they were all top-notch experts. After all, at their age, what kind of situation hadn't they experienced before? This wasn't the first time they had experienced a situation like this. Being able to live until now, who didn't have some survival skills? Therefore, Wang Daoyuan decided to put them at the forefront and act according to the circumstances. With their rich survival experience, the probability of them surviving was far higher than the 2 rookies Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoxing. In addition, Wang Daoyuan had enough defensive talismans. As long as they didn't fight to the death with a large number of monstrous beasts, the safety of the 6 granduncles was still guaranteed. The 12th uncle's granduncle, Wang Jiming, was an expert in alchemy and healing. In terms of fights of magical power, he really didn't have any praiseworthy skills. If he were to fight with monstrous beasts, he wouldn't be able to display much of his strength. It was better to let him treat the injured clansmen at any time. On the other hand, Wang Shui and Wang Daoxing were both relatively good at fights of magical power. They were placed in the second line as the mobile force, choosing their own opportunities to act. Although Wang Daoyuan wasn't strong in fights of magical power, the hundreds of talismans in his hands were not to be trifled with. If he threw out 180 talismans, who below the Foundation establishment realm could withstand it? Therefore, he was the main attacker of the entire team, and naturally stayed at the back. No one had any objections to Wang Daoyuan's arrangement. Only Wang Daoxing was a bit dissatisfied and protested to Wang Daoyuan. 7th brother, I'll stay at the front. It's not fun to kill monstrous beasts in the back. Before Wang Daoyuan could say anything, Wang Shui scolded from the side. Be honest and listen to me. Your aptitude is very good. Although your alcohol tolerance isn't good, if you can reach the Foundation establishment realm, your future will be limitless. Don't play around with your life. Hearing Wang Shui talk about his alcohol tolerance, he felt a bit embarrassed. However, he didn't want to give up so easily. He secretly circulated his spiritual power, and a faint layer of golden light enveloped his body. His skin was like golden glass. Wang Daoyuan could tell that this was a body refinement technique, but he didn't know what it was called. Wang Shui was shocked, but he didn't dare to show it. He could only whisper, "You've reached the 2nd level of the lustrous golden body art?" Wang Daoxing nodded proudly. Wang Daoyuan finally understood what was going on. It turned out that Wang Daoxing had successfully cultivated the lustrous golden body art collected by the clan. The lustrous golden body art was a profound body refinement technique that Wang Qingzu had accidentally obtained when he was still alive. This technique had a total of 9 levels. When cultivated to the peak, one's physical body would be comparable to a high-grade 3rd-grade magic tool. With just the physical body, one would be able to fight a late-stage Violet Palace realm cultivator. However, when Wang Qingzu obtained this technique, it was incomplete and could only cultivate to the 4th level. His physical body was comparable to a high-grade 2nd-grade magic tool. The lustrous golden body art was very powerful, but it also had high requirements for the cultivator. It required a metal spiritual root of more than 8 inches, or a metal spiritual body. Wang Daoyuan also wanted to cultivate this technique, but he gave up when he saw the requirements. With his 2-inch metal spiritual root, he wouldn't be able to reach the 2nd level, even if he cultivated for a lifetime. In the entire clan, he had never heard of anyone reaching the 2nd level. Wang Daoyuan had also never seen anyone use it. Therefore, he didn't recognize that Wang Daoxing was using the lustrous golden body art. He only remembered this technique after hearing Wang Shui's words. When the lustrous golden body art was cultivated to the 2nd level, One's physical strength would be comparable to a cultivator at the 8th or 9th level of qi refinement. Coupled with the fact that his physical body was extremely strong, it was normal for him to defeat a cultivator at the 9th level of qi refinement. With such a strong physical body, it would be difficult for a first-grade demonic beast to injure him. It wouldn't be a problem for him to be placed at the front. Chapter 33. Seeing that Wang Daoxing was insistent and had the ability to protect himself, Wang Daoyuan didn't object anymore. For safety's sake, he gave each of the 7 people who would act as meat shields 10 defensive talismans. Among them, the first-grade high-grade golden armor talisman could withstand 3 full force attacks from a Qi Disciple level 9 cultivator. Even a Qi Disciple peak stage wouldn't be able to break it in one blow. After the preparations were completed, the 10 people settled into their positions. The demon beasts also approached. The first to bear the brunt was the flat ground on the right side of the small hill. More than 90% of the demon beasts were rushing there. The remaining demon beasts scattered, looking for an opening to slip out. As for the demon beasts, they were being held back by 20 or so Foundation Establishment cultivators. Whenever they got close to the human cultivators, 20 or so flying swords would fly over. Every time they tried to break out, there would be casualties. The demon beasts were completely suppressed by the Foundation Establishment cultivators and didn't have much effect on the Qi Disciple cultivators. What they had to face were mainly the demon beasts. One had to admit that Yang Ziyuan was indeed worthy of being the head of the Zifu clan. His mastery of earth element magic had reached perfection. A few earth wall techniques were enough to create a 20-foot long, 3-foot thick, and 5-foot tall wall on the flat ground. He also ordered everyone to hold formation flags and set up a few defensive formations inside and outside the wall. Wang Daoyuan didn't understand formations and couldn't recognize what kind of formations they were. But just by looking at the brilliance of the formations, he knew that it would be very difficult for anyone below the Foundation Establishment stage to break through. In less than 100 breaths, a perfect defensive structure had been set up on the flat ground. Yang Ziyuan's strength was far above his own clan head. The Yang clan's strength was also not something the Wang clan could compare to. The demon beasts quickly charged to within 200 feet of the wall. The 30 Qi disciple cultivators of the Yang clan all took out their spirit crossbows and loaded them with spirit stones. When the demon beasts entered 100 feet, the spirit crossbows were fired. These spirit crossbows were exactly the same as the spirit crossbows used by the caravan earlier. They should be the standard weapons of the Netherworld sect. Wang Daoyuan was very covetous of these spirit crossbows. Generally, early Foundation Establishment cultivators could control flying swords as easily as an extension of their arm, which was within 100 feet. When the distance between a flying sword and its master exceeded 100 feet, it would be difficult to control. It could only perform simple actions such as stabbing and withdrawing. When the distance exceeded 200 feet, the flying sword basically had no lethality. Those who were able to injure others with their flying swords from a distance of 1,000 feet were all outstanding early-stage Foundation Establishment cultivators. And this kind of spiritual crossbow could kill demonic beasts within a range of 300 meters. The fleshly bodies of demon beasts were far stronger than those of humans of the same level. Using this kind of spirit crossbow to shoot human cultivators who did not have any defensive magic treasures, it could kill them from a distance of 1,000 feet. Moreover, this kind of spiritual crossbow didn't make any sound when fired. It was simply a treasure specially made for sneak attacks. However, he could only look on with envy. This was something that belonged to the Underworld sect. Without the Underworld sect's permission, it would be very difficult for him to obtain it. Even if he got it, he couldn't use it openly. Less than 30 breaths after the battle between the Yang family and the demonic beasts began, 3 demonic beasts appeared in front of the Wang family. The 3 demonic beasts were a black ape, a black leopard, and a colorful tiger. The black ape was 10 feet tall, and the hair on its body stood up like steel needles. Its muscles were bulging, and it was 100 streets ahead of the bodybuilders in his previous life. The leopard was about 10 feet long from head to tail. Its tail was very thick, almost as long as its body. In terms of appearance, the tiger was no different from an ordinary tiger. It was just a little bigger. These three demonic beasts all exuded the aura of late-stage stage 1. The tiger was the strongest, equivalent to a peak stage 1 cultivator. The black ape was slightly weaker than the tiger, about chi refinement stage 9. The black leopard was the weakest, about the same as a chi refinement stage 7 cultivator. As soon as the Wang family saw the demonic beasts coming, they immediately took out the golden armor talisman. A layer of golden light enveloped their entire body. Only Wang Daoxing, this hothead, relied on his strong body and didn't use the golden armor talisman. How could Wang Daoyuan let him take this risk? He directly took out 2 golden armor talismans and stuck them on him. The strength of the 3 demonic beasts was not enough to threaten the Wang family's team of 9 late-stage Qi refinement stage cultivators and 1 peak stage Qi refinement stage cultivator. Therefore, they didn't dare to act rashly. They just looked at the Wang family warily. The demonic beasts could stay put, but Wang Daoyuan wouldn't let them stay here. Now that there were only 3 demonic beasts coming, if they didn't get rid of them quickly, there would be trouble if more came. Holding a fire python talisman in his hand, he sent a voice transmission to Wang Daoxing and Wang Shui, telling them to each hold back a demonic beast. After the voice transmission, he took out the fire python talisman, a 30 feet long, and as thick as a bowl, pounced on the weakest black leopard. The fire python was very fast. In less than a breath's time, it flew in front of the black leopard. Wang Daoyuan was unprepared and launched a sneak attack. The black leopard didn't react in time and was entangled by the fire python. The fire python was completely composed of flames. It didn't have the physical strength of a real python, but the burning of the flames was enough to make the black leopard suffer. As the saying goes, having an elder in the family is like having a treasure. The 6 elders of the Wang family were not to be trifled with. The black leopard circulated its spirit energy, wanting to extinguish the flames. Wang Daoyuan wanted to take out another talisman. Before he could ask his 6 granduncles for help, they seized the opportunity and attacked the black leopard together. When Black Ape and the tiger saw this, they immediately went to help. Wang Shui and Wang Daoxing received Wang Daoyuan's voice transmission and were already prepared. As soon as Black Ape and the tiger moved, the 2 of them immediately stopped them. Wang Shui cast a spell. A ball of water spirit energy turned into a water dragon. It was the famous water-type spell, Water Dragon Spell. The Wang family's Water Dragon Spell was very different from the ones circulating in the outside world. It was modified by Wang Qingzu. Wang Qingzu had a spirit beast in the past. It was the dragonfish that was used as the Wang family's emblem. As a dragon species, the dragonfish was proficient in water-type spells. Wang Qingzu was also a golden core cultivator, who specialized in water-type techniques. After their modification, the water dragon spell's power was greatly increased. After the water dragon was formed, it carried a dragon's aura. When used against demonic beasts, the demonic beasts would cower before the spell. The original water dragon spell was only a 2nd level inferior grade spell. But after the modification, it could be advanced. Cultivators in the late stage of Qi refinement could start cultivating it. The upper limit was unknown. An ordinary water dragon technique only had the general shape of a dragon. However, Wang Shui's water dragon technique had the dragon's whiskers fluttering in the wind and its scales spreading out. Every part of the dragon's body was exactly the same as the legendary divine dragons. The 5-foot-long water dragon pounced on the tiger. The tiger didn't have time to save the Black Panther and fought with the water dragon. The dragon's roar and tiger's roar were endless. Wang Daoxing was already wearing the golden armor of the golden armor talisman. When he used the golden glaze body art, golden light shone everywhere like a god. He went forward to stop Black Ape and started a hand-to-hand fight. The people of the Li family who were guarding the small hill were stunned. They had heard that the Wang family's water dragon spell was extraordinary, but they didn't expect it to be so powerful. Wang Shui used a spell that he could casually cast to defeat a demonic beast of the same level. One had to know that demonic beasts had strong bodies, and were generally stronger than cultivators of the same level. If they had the bloodlines of high-level demonic beasts or even divine beasts, they could easily kill human cultivators. Although tiger-type demonic beasts didn't necessarily have high-level bloodlines, as the king of beasts, their combat ability was far superior to ordinary demonic beasts. However, the tiger was being completely defeated by the water dragon. Although there was no blood, its movements were very awkward. It was obvious that it had suffered internal injuries, and the water dragon's power showed no signs of weakening. How could everyone not be surprised? Wang Daoxing's side was even more frightening. His body was covered in golden light as he fought with Black Ape. Both sides only attacked and didn't defend, exchanging one punch for another. Although Wang Daoxing was at a disadvantage, he showed no signs of losing. Chapter 34. Ape-type demon beasts were known for their strength and agility. The actions that humans could do, apes could do. The actions that humans could not do, they could still do. In addition, they were extremely strong and could use weapons. In terms of physical combat, ape-type demon beasts could be said to be invincible among their peers. Among cultivators, there had always been a saying that one would rather fight a tiger than be approached by an ape demon. And Wang Daoxing, with his Qi refinement level 8 cultivation, was fighting the Black Ape, who was at Qi refinement level 9. Although he had the protection of the golden armor talisman, he was not sent flying by a single punch. Instead, he could occasionally push back the Black Ape. It could be seen how strong his physical strength was. The Black Ape and the tiger could still be considered to be fighting, but the Black Panther was completely beaten up. The 6 old ruffians had the golden armor talisman on their bodies. They did not use any spells, and only used their swords to attack the Black Panther's lower body. One sword after another, they stabbed the Black Panther's lower body, until there was no place left untouched. The onlookers of the Li family looked at the 6 old ruffians with contempt. Wang Daoyuan felt embarrassed, but they did not care and continued to stab the Black Panther happily. The thickness of their skin was really admirable. The Black Panther was still wrapped around the fire python, and could not move. Most of its fur was burned, and it had no strength to resist. It could only let out a shrill roar. Wang Daoyuan took advantage of the Black Panther's opening roar, and stabbed his sword into its mouth. The Black Panther died immediately. The Black Panther completely withdrew from the battle. The 6 old ruffians locked their eyes on the tiger. On the Black Ape's side, Wang Daoxing was at a disadvantage. The Black Ape's physical strength was too strong, and they could not interfere at all. On the other hand, the tiger's situation was much better. The tiger was pressed to the ground by the water dragon. Although it did not completely lose its ability to move, it was still greatly restricted. Seeing the 6 smiling old men walking towards it with swords, the tiger actually showed a look of fear and panic. It was as if a young girl was blocked in a corner by 6 old ruffians with a smirk on their faces. Wang Daoyuan shook his head, and dispelled the images in his mind. Wang Shui also had an awkward expression. Some classic images probably appeared in his mind. The 6 old ruffians didn't care about the strange gazes. The oldest one even shouted, "Old brothers, be careful. The tiger's fur is valuable. Don't damage it. We'll pick the furless areas to attack. The tiger's penis is a good thing. It's a great supplement. Don't hurt him." Wang Daoyuan was too embarrassed to admit that this was his family's elder. Wang Shui's face was also red, but Wang Daoxing didn't care at all. Although the tiger's intelligence was very low, and it couldn't understand human language, it knew what the 6 old hooligans wanted to do when they stared at its indescribable part with a smirk. Tiger was beaten up by 7 people. Wang Daoyuan did not participate, but chose to help Wang Daoxing. He took out a thick stack of talismans from a storage bag. Then he dipped his right hand in some saliva, and started counting them in front of the Black Ape, just like how he counted money in his previous life. The ape-type monster beasts had relatively high intelligence. The intelligence of a first-rank monster ape was comparable to that of a 10-year-old child. It already had the concept of quantity. Looking at the thick talisman in Wang Daoyuan's hand, if he were to throw it at it, it would probably explode into nothingness. The Black Ape watched with trepidation. While it was distracted, Wang Daoxing seized the opportunity and punched its head a few times. The black ape flew into a rage out of humiliation. It waved its fists and attacked Wang Daoxing with all its might. Out of the corner of its eye, it glanced at Wang Daoyuan. It saw that Wang Daoyuan had already finished counting the talismans. He took out a brand new talisman and flicked it a few times with his finger, just like how he received brand new banknotes in his previous life. The black ape naturally didn't understand the meaning of Wang Daoyuan's actions. Even the onlookers didn't understand. Wang Daoyuan held the talisman and was about to throw it out when the black ape hurriedly dodged. Wang Daoxing took the opportunity to close in, and the black ape's stomach received 2 more punches. Wang Daoyuan took back the talisman that he was about to throw out. He pinched it with his hand and placed it at the bottom of the stack of talismans. He muttered to himself, "This won't do. This one is too new." Wang Daoyuan didn't deliberately lower his voice. Whether it was cultivators or demonic beasts, their hearing was far superior to that of ordinary people. Naturally, they heard Wang Daoyuan's words. The black ape didn't get angry when it was beaten down, but it was almost angered to death by Wang Daoyuan. The Li family's onlookers couldn't help but burst out laughing. The black ape was furious. It wanted nothing more than to immediately rush up and beat that hateful brat to death. However, with Wang Daoxing in front of it, it could only think about it and continue to fight with Wang Daoxing. There was someone holding a stack of talismans to deal with it. It didn't dare to fully concentrate on dealing with Wang Daoxing. Instead, it divided a part of its attention to guard against Wang Daoyuan. The man and beast exchanged 2 or 3 blows. Wang Daoyuan took out another talisman and threw it at the black ape. The black ape immediately dodged. Wang Daoxing took the opportunity to punch it a few times. Just like last time, Wang Daoyuan took back the talisman. After going back and forth like this for 5 or 6 times, the black ape had also been beaten up 5 or 6 times. It had made up its mind that it would no longer care about the fellow who only knew how to scare apes. It would first take care of the fellow in front of it who dared to fight with it. Wang Daoyuan tested it 2 more times. The black ape completely ignored him and decisively took out a golden sword talisman. Most metal-type spells had sharp characteristics and were suitable for breaking through defenses. This black ape's body was very strong. Fireball talismans, fire python talismans, and the like couldn't cause any substantial damage to it. But the golden sword talisman was different. Even if it couldn't seriously injure the black ape, it would be no problem to injure it. A small 3-inch sword flew out from the golden sword talisman. Wang Daoyuan aimed at the back of the black ape's right knee. As long as it hit, the power of the golden sword talisman could definitely cripple the black ape's right leg. The black ape was completely focused on fighting Wang Daoyuan and didn't pay attention to Wang Daoyuan's actions. It was only when the small golden sword was less than 3 meters away from it that it noticed. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Before it could dodge, the golden sword pierced its right knee joint. The full power of the golden sword talisman was stored in the knee joint. One of its tendons was directly cut off. Its knee joint couldn't move, and it completely lost control of its lower leg. At this moment, Wang Daoxing threw a punch. The black ape subconsciously parried with both hands and diverted the force to its right leg. But its right leg was basically crippled. It was already difficult for it to support its body. So how could it withstand Wang Daoxing's punch? It was directly knocked to the ground by this punch. Wang Daoxing took advantage of the situation and rode on the black ape's body. He attacked its head left and right. In less than 20 breaths, he had punched it over 100 times. After being punched so many times in the head by an opponent of similar strength, the black ape couldn't take it no matter how strong its body was. It immediately breathed its last. Wang Daoxing was a little unhappy because he didn't rely on his own strength to defeat his opponent. However, he also knew that this was a battle of life and death. It wasn't a competition of skill. Surviving was victory. The black ape was beaten to death. It could be considered a tragic death, but the tiger died very sullenly. It had been crushed by the water dragon and suffered a lot of internal injuries. It couldn't move freely, and the 6 old ruffians were specifically calling out to its lower body. Not long after, the tiger lay down. An indescribable part of its body had been stabbed a dozen times, and blood flowed all over the ground. Only when the tiger stopped breathing did the bleeding stop. One had to admit that the 6 old ruffians' sword techniques were quite good. After a dozen or so strikes, they didn't even leave a scratch. Wang Daoyuan was full of admiration. Of course, he only admired their swordsmanship. As for their actions, he still despised them. Chapter 35. After dealing with the 3 demon beasts, Wang Shui recalled the water dragon and took out a wine gourd. He drank some spirit wine and meditated to recover his spirit energy. Wang Daoxing had suffered many external injuries. The light shield formed by the 2 golden armor talismans had been broken by the black ape long ago. After that, Wang Daoxing had been relying on the glassy golden body art to resist. With his strong body and the glassy golden body art, Wang Daoxing only suffered light injuries. However, he had used up a lot of spirit energy. He took 2 spirit recovery pills and meditated to recover his spirit energy. Wang Daoyuan put away the corpses of the 3 demon beasts. From beginning to end, Wang Daoyuan had only used 2 talismans. He hadn't used any spirit energy. The 6 granduncles had only launched a sneak attack and hadn't faced the enemy head-on. The consumption of spirit energy was negligible. The Li family patriarch, Li Xinghe, hadn't participated in the hunt for the demon beasts. Instead, he had stayed on the hill to guard against the Foundation establishment demon beasts. He had watched the battle from beginning to end. Although he didn't show any emotions on the surface, his heart was in turmoil. The performance of the Wang family had shocked him. Wang Shui's water dragon technique had reached perfection. He had heard that his talent was extremely good. Like Wang Qingzu, he also specialized in water-type techniques. In the future, he might reach Wang Qingzu's level. Wang Daoxing could fight the black ape in close combat, without being defeated, even though his cultivation was 1 level lower. If he could reach Foundation establishment, he would be unrivaled in the same realm. Wang Daoyuan had only used 2 offensive talismans to achieve such a great effect. It was clear that his control over the situation and his ability to use resources was strong. Ambushing the black ape and deciding the battle in 1 blow. It was clear that he had grasped the timing accurately and attacked fiercely. The 6 granduncles were also ruthless and didn't care about their methods. The 6 granduncles were all like this. It was clear that there were many such people in the Wang family. Now, the Wang family had 100,000 mortals and 50 to 60 cultivators. They had some achievements in talisman crafting and alchemy. These were the foundation of a cultivation family. The Wang family's foundation was now more stable than when Wang Qingzu was alive. What the Wang clan lacked now was a pillar of support, and Wang Shui had the potential to do so. In addition, they had an unrivaled fighter of the same realm. They were ruthless and resourceful. If these 3 could reach Foundation establishment, the Wang family's rise would be right in front of them. Li Xinghe made up his mind to build a good relationship with the Wang family. Firstly, he saw the potential of the Wang clan. After all, it was a clan established by a Jindan stage ancestor. Although it declined midway, the foundation of the clan was still there. Not to mention anything else, just the water dragon art that Wang Shui had just used, and Wang Daoxing's golden glaze body art, was something that the Li clan couldn't bring out. Furthermore, the Wang family still had the golden core cultivation technique left behind by Wang Qingzu, the overturned sea art. The Li clan was an ordinary foundation establishment clan, so they didn't have such a good item. Secondly, the relationship between the 2 clans was quite good. They were both old clans, and now they were both actively trying to integrate into the underworld sect. It could be said that they were natural allies. In the future, when they completely merged with the netherworld sect, the 2 sects could advance and retreat together. Moreover, there was no competition between the 2 companies in terms of business. The sphere of influence of the Wang family was in the basin of the Qingli River, while the Li family was in the southwest of the Jinyan city, which was neither too far nor too close. There was no conflict to expand the territory, and they would not be unfamiliar with each other because of the distance. In terms of business, the 2 companies complemented each other very well. The Wang family's back was at the junction of 2 large mountain ranges. There were several mines of black iron, red copper, and other low-level refining materials. In addition, there were lush trees. Therefore, mining, quarrying, spirit wood and shipping business were the main pillars, and refining pills and talismans were auxiliary. The Green D Peak, where the Li family was located, was far away from the mountains and rivers. There were fewer spirit fields, no mines and spirit wood. It was surrounded by grasslands that were rich in all kinds of spirit beasts, and the forest-piercing beast was one of them. The founder of the Li family was proficient in refining, and left behind a profound refining inheritance. Therefore, the Li family's main business was refining and selling spirit beasts. The two companies not only did not compete in business, but also complemented each other. The Wang family could provide a large amount of refining materials, and the Li family could sell the spirit weapons that the Wang family urgently needed. The friendship between the Wang family's patriarch Wang Jian and the Li family's patriarch Li Xinghe, as well as Wang Jian helping Li Xinghe out of trouble, to a large extent, was also for the further cooperation between the two companies in business. The two companies had no conflict of interest, and instead had many common interests. The Li family was happy to see the rise of the Wang family. Just as Li Xinghe was thinking about the relationship between the two companies, Wang Shui and Wang Daoxing had finished recovering their spirit power, and the second wave of demonic beasts came. The Wang family was guarding the side of the small hill that was close to the flat ground. The mountain terrain was more gentle, and demonic beasts could climb it relatively easier. Therefore, there were more demonic beasts in front of the Wang family. This time, another 10 demonic beasts came. The Li family's side was adjacent to the cliff, and it was rugged and difficult to traverse. Most rank 1 demonic beasts could not pass at all, so there was no point in forcefully attacking to open a gap. Therefore, only 2 demonic beasts went to probe. The demonic beasts that the Wang family faced were a peak rank 1 blaze lion, and the other 9 were late rank 1, equivalent to rank 8 or 9 Qi disciple level demonic beasts. The blaze lion was about 3 zhang long, and its appearance was similar to an ordinary lion, only its mane was fiery red. The blaze lion not only had a strong physical body, but it was also good at controlling fire. It could both attack from a distance and engage in close combat. It was an extremely difficult demonic beast to deal with. Moreover, the flames on this blaze lion's body were blood red, different from ordinary blaze lions. It seemed to have the bloodline of some high-level demonic beast, and could not be underestimated. The strength of these 10 demonic beasts had completely surpassed the 10 people of the Wang family. Even if they could defeat this group of demonic beasts with the spirit-scattering talisman, it was inevitable that some of them would die in battle. However, there was no other way. They could only brace themselves and fight. The other members of the Wang family also realized that danger was approaching. The 6 granduncles put away their playful thoughts and used 2 more golden armor talismans on their bodies. Wang Shui's expression also became serious. He stuck 2 golden armor talismans on his body and took out a water blue longsword from his storage bag. This longsword was the magic weapon that their ancestor, Wang Qingzu, used before he reached foundation establishment. Wang Daoxing put away his arrogance and stuck 5 golden armor talismans on his body. He knew very well that he was a meat shield and had to take the most attacks. Then, he took out an exaggerated mace from his storage bag. The handle was 5 feet long, and the head of the mace was thicker than a person's waist. Wang Jiming also took out a long sword and a jade bottle, and poured the black liquid in the bottle onto the sword. As soon as the black liquid came out of the bottle, a pungent smell instantly spread out. Wang Daoyuan's eyelids twitched when he saw this. He was dipping a sword in poison in front of everyone. The expressions of the Li family members on the side were not very natural. They had probably never seen such a thing. Wang Daoyuan had nothing to prepare. He took out a stack of golden armor talismans from his storage bag, gave 5 to each person, and stuck one on himself. Then, he instructed the Wang family members. 12th uncle blocked the blazing lion. 6th granduncles and second brother blocked the other demonic beasts. The enemy is strong, and we are weak. Remember not to advance rashly. 12th uncle, and I will be responsible for sending the demonic beasts on their way. Everyone agreed in unison. Then he took out another stack of talismans. There were about 100 of them, and they were all offensive talismans. The Li family members were already somewhat numb. These people from the Wang family were too troublesome. There were all kinds of weirdos. And now there was another one who used money to smash people. In this short period of time, Wang Daoyuan had already taken out nearly 200 talismans. That was more than 1,000 spirit stones. Even a talisman master would only carry a few dozen talismans with him. If he kept too many on him, he would not be able to use them all. He could make talismans at any time. Moreover, making talismans also costs money. If he accumulated talismans, he would not have enough spirit stones. After all, first-stage talisman masters were not very rich. Seeing how happy Wang Daoyuan was to distribute the talismans, there should be more talismans. After Wang Daoyuan broke through to the late stage of qi refinement, his divine sense had also improved greatly. He could make more than 20 talismans a day, and he could still maintain a success rate of more than 50%. This was still without using spirit wine and pills to recover. Other first-stage high-grade talisman masters could make 10 talismans a day and maintain a success rate of 40%, which was considered quite good. Refining talismans consumed divine sense and spirit energy, which required time to recover. In addition, they had to cultivate every day, so they did not have much time to refine talismans. No one was like Wang Daoyuan, who was willing to use 5 spirit stones per caddy of spirit wine to recover spirit energy. Wang Daoyuan dared to risk his life to make talismans. In addition to his naturally strong divine sense, it was also because he used the recovery time of other talisman masters to make talismans. Chapter 36. This time, the beasts had the upper hand, so there was no need for them to confront each other. They immediately attacked. The flaming lion took the lead and rushed to the front. Wang Shui used the same trick again. A water dragon flew out and met the flaming lion. The flaming lion spat out a fireball the size of a human head, which was scattered by the water dragon's claw. The flames scattered, but the water dragon was agile and avoided all the flames. After a while, the water dragon and the flaming lion were fighting in close quarters. The flaming lion was covered in a layer of flames. Every time it came into contact with the water dragon, it would emit a white mist. The water dragon and the flames would consume some of it, but Wang Shui and the flaming lion would replenish it with their spiritual energy. The man and the beast were locked in battle. The battle had become a war of attrition. It was a battle of who had more spiritual energy. Wang Daoyuan did not like to just watch. He took out 3 rain-dissolving talismans and threw them out. A black cloud appeared out of nowhere in the sky above the blazing lion's head. Soon it began to rain heavily. Under the heavy rain, the water dragon's power increased slightly, but not by much. The flaming lion was in a worse situation. The flames on its body were constantly being weakened by the rain. It could only increase its spiritual energy output to barely keep the flames burning. The consumption of spiritual energy increased greatly. As a result, Wang Shui gained the upper hand in the originally evenly matched battle. The flaming lion wanted to escape from the black cloud, but Wang Shui would not let it do so. The water dragon entangled the flaming lion tightly, making it difficult for it to move. The dragon and the lion were entangled. Spells could not be used, so they could only fight with their claws and teeth. Wang Daoyuan's maneuver had arranged the flaming lion so well that it attracted the admiration of everyone present. The Li family patriarch, Li Xinghe, actually taught the young people of the family on the spot. He praised Wang Daoyuan for his quick wit, his ability to grasp opportunities, and his ability to use the resources in his hands to make greater use of them. He also called on the young disciples of the Li family to learn from comrade Wang Daoyuan. The other beasts were not idle. The 9 beasts rushed towards the other 9 people of the Wang family. Soon, the beasts collided with the 7 meat shields. Wang Daoxing was facing a monkey. This monkey was slightly smaller than a human. It didn't have the exaggerated muscles of ape-type demonic beasts, but it was extremely agile. The monkey's entire body was covered in white fur, but its 2 eyes were golden. This was an extremely rare golden-eyed spirit monkey. Its pair of golden eyes had extremely good eyesight, and it also had the ability to break through illusions. Concealment, disguise, and earth escape were all useless under the golden eye. These monster beasts advanced and retreated in a measured manner. It was obvious that someone or a high-level monster beast was controlling them from behind. There might be some twists and turns in the battle to exterminate the monster beasts. If he did not get rid of this spirit monkey, he would die in the hands of this monkey, if he needed to escape through the earth. Wang Daoxing brandished the gigantic mace towards the spirit monkey. It was a pity that the spirit monkey was too agile. The mace flew up and down, but could not even touch the spirit monkey's fur. Wang Daoxing was a body cultivator, and his physical strength was far stronger than ordinary cultivators. Coupled with the giant spiked club, even a turtle-type spirit beast would be injured after receiving a blow from him. However, with great power came great consumption. If he could not hit the spirit monkey, his stamina would be depleted in no time. He wanted to fight other demonic beasts, but this spirit monkey was sneakily attacking him. He had no choice but to turn around and fight with the spirit monkey. It was already good enough that the 6 granduncles could barely hold on with the help of the golden armor talisman against 8 demonic beasts that were more powerful than them. It was not possible for them to lend a helping hand. The Wang family was already weaker than the demonic beasts. If one of them was exhausted, they would not be able to fight anymore. Wang Daoyuan naturally would not allow such a situation to happen. He took out a talisman from the stack in his hands and activated the Dharma spell in the talisman. Hundreds of grape-sized fireballs appeared out of thin air in front of Wang Daoyuan. Subsequently, the fireballs flew towards the spirit monkey. This was the level 1 Dharma spell Fire Rain spell. The fireballs flew at an extremely fast speed, and there were many of them. They were densely packed like raindrops. The Fire Rain spell was fast and covered a large area. However, its lethality was extremely low. It was not very useful against most demonic beasts. However, it was very effective against demonic beasts like the spirit monkey that could not withstand beatings and relied on its agility to survive. No matter how agile the spirit monkey was, it could not dodge all of the hundreds of small fireballs. As long as the fireballs hit its body, it would definitely be injured, and its agility would be affected. As long as its agility was affected, the spirit monkey's specialty would be gone. By then, wouldn't it be at the mercy of others? The spirit monkey also knew that if it was hit by these small fireballs, it would definitely die. Hence, it exerted all its strength to dodge the small fireballs. With its golden eyes and agility, it managed to dodge more than half of the fireballs. Wang Daoxing would not let it off so easily. While it was concentrating on dodging the fireballs, Wang Daoxing took the opportunity to finish off the spirit monkey. Wang Daoxing waved the mace with all his might. The whistling sound of the wind was continuous. The spirit monkey already had a hard time dodging the small fireballs. Now, with the addition of the mace, it was even more difficult. As it was distracted, it was quickly hit by the fireballs and suffered minor injuries. Although the injuries were not serious, it severely affected its agility. The spirit monkey could not dodge in time and was hit by the mace. It died on the spot. After finishing off the spirit monkey, Wang Daoxing found a new target. This target was a bear. It was brown all over and was more than 20 feet long. There was nothing special about it. It should be a demonic beast that evolved from an ordinary brown bear. Usually, such demonic beasts did not have intrinsic Dharma spells. Compared to before they evolved into demonic beasts, their bodies were stronger, and their strength was greater. To Wang Daoxing, such an opponent was a live target. It was just that it was more resistant to beatings, and would not die in a short period of time. Wang Daoxing's side was fine for now. However, the 6 granduncles could not hold on any longer. 2 of the granduncles were already more than 110 years old. They were old and frail. Even if they recuperated at home, they would not have many years left. Now, they were trying their best to fight against demonic beasts that were stronger than them. Even with the protection of the golden armor talisman, the impact of the collision with the demonic beasts was still borne by their bodies. After dozens of rounds, the 2 granduncles' chi and blood were surging. They could not hold on any longer. Once the 2 of them fell, the other 4 granduncles who were fighting against the 7 demonic beasts would also be defeated quickly. The Wang family's side was breached and the demonic beasts were released. If the Netherworld sect pursued the matter, everyone would have to bear the consequences. The 12th uncle's granduncle, Wang Jiming, had already rushed forward to share the pressure. However, he was still barely holding on and could be defeated at any time. Wang Daoyuan could not wait for an opportunity to take action. He could only directly throw out talismans. Although this could greatly reduce the pressure on the meat shield, it would also lose the opportunity to finish off the opponent. Both sides were engaged in a war of attrition. No one could defeat the opponent quickly. However, time was not on the Wang family's side. The two granduncles could still fall. Moreover, other demonic beasts could come at any time. The two granduncles, who were more than 110 years old, were holding the magic tools in their hands. They were almost unable to hold them. Their legs were also trembling. It was as if a gust of wind could blow them down. Their strength had been exhausted. They could only hold on until now by relying on their last breath. On Wang Shui's side, one hand was controlling the water dragon to fight with the raging flame lion. The other hand was gathering spiritual power. It seemed that he was going to condense another water dragon. Wang Daoyuan had already planned to take out the second-level talisman. He could not hide his trump card and watch his clansmen die in battle. Chapter 37. Wang Daoyuan was about to take out his Grade 2 Spirit Talisman when he saw 3 people from the Li family. They were all at Qi Refinement Stage 9. The person in front smiled and said, "Daoyu from the Wang family, don't panic. We're here to help." Wang Daoyuan immediately replied, "Thank you, Daoyu. Please help hold back 2 demon beasts, and let my 2 old granduncles rest." The Li family cultivator said, "You're welcome. The 3 of us can hold back 3 demon beasts. I'll leave the rest to you." "Thank you." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands. The 3 Li family members shared the 3 demon beasts. The other 4 granduncles were all over 100 years old. They still had more than 10 years before their lifespans, and had not shown any signs of exhaustion. They only needed to deal with 4 demon beasts. With the protection of the golden armor talisman, and the support of the 12th uncle, Wang Jiming, they could guarantee that they would not be defeated. Wang Daoyuan no longer threw out spirit talismans. Instead, he continued to look for opportunities to help Wang Daoxing deal with his opponents quickly. The 5 granduncles did not have any special skills in combat. Even if they found an opportunity, they did not have the ability to kill the demon beasts. Wang Shui's cultivation technique was of the water attribute. It was about small streams flowing continuously. Against enemies of the same level, the most suitable tactic was a war of attrition. Although he could also kill his opponent instantly, after that, he would not have much combat strength left. On the battlefield, it was very dangerous to exhaust one's spirit energy. Even though Wang Shui had the advantage of water suppressing fire in the 5 elements, it was still very difficult to kill the blazing lion in a short time. However, Wang Daoxing was different. His lethality was quite strong. The black ape from before, the golden-eyed spirit monkey that had just died, and the brown bear that was being beaten up could all prove this point. Helping Wang Daoxing deal with his opponents quickly was the most reliable choice. Wang Daoxing waved his mace and jumped high, smashing it down on the brown bear's head. Although the brown bear was not clumsy, the mace was faster, and it was impossible for it to dodge. The brown bear's 2 hind legs landed on the ground, and its 2 front paws were raised, taking the mace head-on. If this mace hit a human cultivator of the same level, his bones and tendons would definitely be broken, and his head would split open. However, the brown bear's skin was coarse, its flesh was thick, and its bones were hard. Even if it took a hit, it would only hurt its paws for a while. The brown bear was in a defensive position, and focused all its attention on the mace. This gave Wang Daoyuan the perfect opportunity to launch a sneak attack. He took out a golden sword talisman, calculated the time when the mace would fall, and activated it. The golden dagger went straight for the brown bear's lumbar vertebrae, and pierced into it before the mace fell. The brown bear hadn't felt the pain in its waist when the mace smashed down. The brown bear used all its strength to resist the mace, but it suddenly realized that its lower body was not listening to it. Regardless of whether it was a human or a terrestrial demonic beast, they all started from the ground. The lower half of the brown bear's body did not listen to its commands, and it could not use even half of its strength. Under Wang Daoxing's powerful blow, it directly fell to the ground. His head was protected by two bare paws, so his head didn't explode immediately. Wang Daoxing swung his mace a few more times. The brown bear fell on its back and completely withdrew from the battle. After Wang Daoxing took care of the brown bear, he took care of another demonic beast from his 4 granduncles. With the help of Wang Daoyuan, he quickly took care of it. In half an hour, except for the flame lion, all the demonic beasts that the Wang family dealt with were taken care of. The 4 granduncles were over 100 years old. Although they were still far from passing away, they were still old people. After fighting with a group of demonic beasts for half a day, their physical strength and spiritual energy were greatly consumed. They were not in the mood to tease the flame lion anymore, and all sat down to recover their spiritual energy. Wang Daoxing carried his mace and came to the battlefield of the flame lion and the water dragon. At this time, Wang Daoyuan's rain dispersal talismans had just expired. The flame lion could finally launch a counterattack against the water dragon. It urged the flames with all its might, trying to break free from the water dragon. How could Wang Daoyuan let it succeed? He took out 3 more rain dispersal talismans and threw them into the sky above the flame lion's head. On the flame lion's body, the flames that had just recovered were once again hit by the heavy rain. There was only a thin layer left. It was once again suppressed by the water dragon. Seeing this, Wang Daoxing swung his mace and was about to smash it. Wang Daoyuan immediately stuck an earth armor talisman on him. A layer of yellow armor covered his whole body. The original golden armor on his body was already dim. It could not withstand a casual blow from a peak rank 1 demonic beast. The flame lion was a fire attribute demonic beast, and the golden armor spell was a metal attribute spell. Fire countered metal. Against fire attribute spells, the golden armor talisman's defensive power was greatly reduced. The earth armor spell was an earth attribute spell. The only element that could counter the earth attribute was the wood attribute, but it was the weakest of the 5 attributes. The earth attribute was the best defensive attribute. The price of the earth armor talisman was higher than the golden armor talisman, but the defensive effect was similar. In the absence of fire attribute opponents, the golden armor talisman was more cost-effective. Therefore, the defensive talismans that Wang Daoyuan gave out to his clansmen were all golden armor talismans. After all, the flame lion was of the same rank as Wang Shui and had a special bloodline. Although Wang Shui had the upper hand, he could not beat his opponent like he did with the tiger. The flame lion could not move freely, but it could still fight back. As soon as Wang Daoxing approached the flame lion, he was spat out a fireball. If the defensive spell on his body was the golden armor spell, he would have been injured. After being hit by the fireball, the earth armor only flickered and dimmed a little. It would take at least 3 more attacks of similar strength to break the armor's shadow. However, the flame lion did not have the chance. It was already at a disadvantage. Coupled with Wang Daoyuan's rain talisman, it was already in a suppressed state. It spat out fireballs desperately, trying to repel Wang Daoxing. This gave the water dragon a chance. At this time, the flame lion was tightly bound by the water dragon. It was difficult for it to even move. A peak rank 1 demonic beast could only be slaughtered. Wang Daoxing did not hold back. He swung his mace and smashed it. After a while the flame lion was dead. The flame lion had awakened its innate spell and was considered talented among its kind. It was just a matter of time before it became a rank 2 demonic beast. It did not expect to be smashed to death by a Qi disciple level 8 human. The 7 demonic beasts on the Wang family side were all dealt with. Only the 2 granduncles had used up too much spiritual energy. Wang Daoyuan ordered everyone to hurry up and recover their spiritual energy. The next wave of demonic beasts could come at any time. As for himself, he went to help the 3 Li family cultivators deal with their opponents. After all, the Li family cultivators had kindly come to help. Although their combat strength was not good, and they could not finish off their opponents after half a day, it was not appropriate for him to help them fight hard. The 3 Li family cultivators were also at Qi disciple level 9, the same as the 3 demonic beasts. However, they were not as strong as Wang Shui and Wang Daoxing, and were not as rich as Wang Daoyuan. They did not have the advantage against demonic beasts of the same rank. Wang Daoyuan also did not have the time to look for the demonic beast's weaknesses. Moreover, the 3 Li family cultivators' combat strength was mediocre. It was difficult for them to force out the demonic beast's weaknesses. He simply bombarded them with talismans. More than 20 offensive talismans of various types were thrown out. The 3 demonic beasts were all injured, light or heavy. The 3 Li family cultivators finally gained the upper hand. After 15 minutes, with Wang Daoyuan's help, the 3 demonic beasts were all killed. Chapter 38. The ownership of the 3 demonic beast corpses was a bit troublesome. The 3 Li family members helped to hold back the 3 demonic beasts, but the Wang family contributed even more. It was not appropriate for anyone to take the 3 demonic beast corpses. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, the Li family wants to be friendly, and Li Xinghe is a good friend of the patriarch. Outside the Gold Goose City, the patriarch took the initiative to help the Li family out, so he should also want to be friendly with the Li family. This time, the Li family helped, so they owed them a small favor. It would be better to give the 3 demonic beast corpses to the Li family to return the favor and express their goodwill. So he said, this time, thanks to the help of the 3 Daoyu, my Wang family members would have been injured or killed. Please accept these 3 demonic beast corpses. The Li clan's patriarch Li Xinghe said, little friend, you're too polite. These 3 juniors of my Li clan are useless and didn't help much. It's all thanks to little friend's over 20 talismans that we were able to kill these 3 demonic beasts. The 2 of them pushed and pushed for a while, and finally decided that the Li family would take 2 demonic beasts, and the Wang family would take 1. The 3 Li family members did not lose anything and earned 2 demonic beast corpses, which were worth 50 to 60 spirit stones. So they were all happy. Wang Daoyuan got 1 demonic beast corpse. Although its value was far less than the 20 talismans, he did not care about it. As long as he could form a good relationship with the Li family, this loss was not a big deal. After eliminating the second wave of demonic beasts, the demonic beasts seemed to have given up on probing the small hill, and no more demonic beasts came. Wang Daoyuan finally had some time to check the situation of the whole battlefield. Most of the demonic beasts struggled to climb up the cliff on the left side of the small hill. So few demonic beasts went to probe. The families guarding the hill were all idle. The flat ground on the right side of the small hill was very lively. Thousands of demonic beasts rushed forward without any regard for their lives. The Yang family led several families to rely on the earthen wall and shoot the demonic beasts with spirit crossbows. When the demonic beasts rushed close, they would use talismans to greet them. As for the cultivators, they were able to easily block the demonic beasts 20 steps away. 20 steps in front of the wall, more than 1,000 corpses of demonic beasts were piled up. The pile of corpses was no shorter than the wall. With the obstruction of the corpses, the damage caused by the spirit crossbows became less and less. On the other hand, the demonic beast's charge became stronger with each wave. There were even demonic beasts that rushed to the edge of the earth wall. If this continued, the demonic beasts would be able to break through the earthen wall in less than half an hour. On the east side of the carriage gorge, more than 1,000 people were lying in ambush. Most of them were from the old families, and the direct descendants of the underworld sect, who were close to the old families. Other than the team led by Yang Ziyuan, who faced the demonic beast horde head-on, the other teams faced fewer demonic beasts. It had to be said that the Yang family was quite popular. Once they were in a tight spot, the other teams immediately sent reinforcements to help the Yang family stabilize the defensive line. However, the number of cultivators who came as reinforcements was relatively small. There were only about 100 of them. After all, the other teams still had to look after their own lines of defense. If too many reinforcements came, their own lines of defense would not be able to hold. After that, they would definitely be dealt with by the Netherworld sect. Half an hour later, under the onslaught of wave after wave of demonic beasts, the earthen wall that Yang Ziyuan had built collapsed. Thousands of demonic beasts directly charged into the group of cultivators, and both sides engaged in a hand-to-hand battle. Wang Daoyuan was very puzzled by the battle situation. The demonic beasts were already trapped. Not only did the cultivators on the west side of the carriage gorge not strike while the iron was hot and eliminate the demonic beasts in one fell swoop, they instead allowed the demonic beasts to attack the east side of the gorge where their forces were weak. No matter how he looked at it, it seemed like they were borrowing the hands of the demonic beasts to exhaust the strength of the old family. Wang Daoyuan's guess was very accurate. More than 10 li to the west of the carriage gorge, 3 Violet Mansion elders were discussing in a low voice. Lu Jinhui anxiously said, 2 elders wanting to exhaust the old family's strength is not a big deal. However, don't let your personal interests get the better of you. If the demonic beasts escape, the one who will suffer the greatest loss will be our netherworld sect. 2 elders should stop before going too far. If you don't attack, the demonic beasts will all escape. Zhou Qi nodded and said, Elder Lu's words are reasonable. Let's stop before going too far and look at the big picture. The black-robed old man was eager for the old family to be exterminated. He was also the one who strongly advocated the idea of borrowing the hands of the old family. Elder Lu and Elder Zhou had nothing to do with the old family. The black-robed old man insisted again and again, even bringing up Elder Jean. The 2 of them could not refuse. At this time, the cultivators on the east side of the gorge had suffered heavy casualties. It was only a matter of time before the demonic beasts broke through the encirclement. Although the black-robed old man wanted to exterminate the old family, it did not mean that he wanted to sacrifice his own future. If the demonic beasts were to escape, the 3 Violet Mansion elders would suffer. Therefore, the black-robed old man did not object. At Zhou Qi's command, the 3,000 cultivators lying in ambush on the west side of the carriage gorge pounced on the demonic beasts like hungry tigers released from their cages. A moment later, the 3,000 cultivators charged into the horde of demonic beasts. After many rounds of exhaustion, there were only about 4,000 demonic beasts left. There were less than 3,000 demonic beasts. More than 200 Foundation Establishment cultivators flew in the air on their magic tools, encircling the demonic beasts. In addition, there were dozens of Foundation Establishment cultivators assisting the Qi condensation cultivators on the ground in cleaning up the demonic beasts. At this time, there was no need to talk about breaking through the encirclement. The entire battlefield had turned into a pot of porridge. Occasionally, a few demonic beasts would try to take advantage of the chaos to escape. As soon as they left the battlefield, they would be beheaded by the Foundation Establishment cultivators who were watching the battle. Based on the current situation, the demonic beasts and demonic beasts were destined to be wiped out. However, in this kind of chaotic battle, there would be a lot of casualties. The Netherworld Sect's own cultivators were well equipped and were the last to enter the battle, so there would not be too many casualties. However, it was hard to say for the cultivators of the old family. Wang Daoyuan secretly made up his mind. After returning, the old family should change their target. In the past, they wholeheartedly wanted to integrate into the Netherworld sect, but now it seemed that it was not reliable. The Yang family had a Violet Mansion elder in the Netherworld sect, but this time, they were also cheated. Even if the Wang family had Foundation Establishment cultivators in the Netherworld sect, they could not be compared to the Yang family. When the time came, wouldn't they be cannon fodder? Swallowing their anger and humiliation and joining the Netherworld sect, was it just to be cannon fodder? Only a crafty rabbit with 3 burrows could avoid death. The Wang family only had the Netherworld sect, which was not taken seriously by the Netherworld sect. Now that the Netherworld sect and the Cruel Sun Palace frequently fought, who knew when they would be used as cannon fodder and pulled to the front line? After all, the Wang family's enmity with the Cruel Sun Palace had long been off the charts. It was simply the best bait. For the continuation of the old family, there must be a way out. After this battle, he had to persuade the old family to make early plans. The battle under the small hill was already one-sided. At most, the battle would be over in 4 to 6 hours, and there would be time to clean up the battlefield. The cultivators who did not participate in the chaotic battle also relaxed their vigilance. They would be able to go home soon. Wang Daoxing also said happily, "This time, it was really fun to fight. Unfortunately, we have to go home now." The 6 granduncles were also in a good mood. When they came out, they were already mentally prepared to not be able to go back. However, if they could go back alive, no one wanted to die. Wang Daoyuan was afraid that if they were too relaxed, they would not be able to react in time. He reminded them, "It's not that simple. Everyone, don't relax your vigilance." Everyone had a look of surprise. Only Wang Shui laughed lightly. "You also noticed something wrong? Why don't you tell us? Let's see if the two of us have the same judgment." Wang Daoyuan took out a soundproof talisman to prevent others from eavesdropping. He then said, "This group of demonic beasts advance and retreat in a measured manner. It's as if someone is commanding them to fight. Also, that black wind when they ambushed the caravan can increase the killing range of the spell. I've never heard of a human cultivator or demonic beast having such a spell. It could be a secret spell created by a human cultivator, or the spell of a mutated demonic beast. It could also be some kind of magic tool. In my opinion, no matter what the situation is, it's impossible for a Foundation establishment cultivator to use such a spell. This group of demonic beasts is not as simple as they appear on the surface. At the very least," Wang Shui laughed lightly, "at the very least, there's a third-ranked demonic beast or a Zifu realm cultivator hiding in the background. The only reasonable explanation for the hidden one revealing his methods is that he wants more underworld sect elders to come. Since he used more than 10,000 demonic beasts as the price to set up this trap, it definitely won't end so easily. His goal is definitely not to deal with us small fries. It's very likely that he's targeting the underworld sect elders. The hidden one used so many demonic beasts as bait to fish for the underworld sect elders. He should have enough means to deal with the 3 elders. The underworld sect should also have a backup plan. Next, it'll depend on who's stronger. Unless the hidden one feels that he has no chance of winning and stops attacking. Otherwise, a great battle between Zifu realm cultivators is right in front of us. We Qi refinement small fries should hurry up and think of a way to save our lives." Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, "Patriarch really has a good eye for people. 12th uncle usually has a sloppy appearance and is too lazy to care about anything. But he's indeed cut out to be a patriarch. His eyesight and judgment are definitely not below mine." The underworld sect used dozens of carriages as bait to fish for demonic beasts. The other party also used demonic beasts to fish for the underworld sect. The underworld sect very likely has a backup plan. Both sides are old schemers. It'll depend on who's the final fisherman. The other 8 people of the Wang clan were shocked. They thought that they were going to go home. They didn't expect that it would be the rat pulling the shovel. The big head is at the back. Seeing that everyone was out of their wits, Wang Daoyuan simply stopped talking nonsense. Don't let your imagination run wild. Be prepared. Once something happens, first take out a defensive talisman to protect yourself. Then look for an opportunity to escape. Remember, don't be the first to escape. Otherwise, you'll definitely be dealt with later. If you run when there are more than 50 people running away, the underworld sect won't be able to find fault with us afterwards. Also, you must run separately. Once the enemy makes a move, his strength is definitely not something we can resist. There's no point in gathering together. On the contrary, it's easy to attract attention. After escaping, don't return to Gold Goose City, so as to avoid being caught by the underworld sect as a scapegoat. Directly return to Jade Spring Peak. Wang Shui didn't have any objections. The others were already stunned. They only knew to nod blankly. Naturally, they also couldn't raise any opinions. Wang Daoyuan gave everyone another 5 talismans for escaping. They quietly waited for the arrival of the enemy. There were fewer and fewer demonic beasts and birds on the battlefield. Wang Daoyuan also became more and more nervous. The hidden one could make a move at any time, clearly knowing that something was going to happen, but being powerless to stop it. They couldn't even escape in advance. They could only wait for the crisis to arrive. This kind of feeling was suffocating. The demonic beasts on the battlefield were quickly eliminated. The cultivators of the underworld sect were all cleaning up the battlefield. Such a good thing naturally wouldn't happen to non-members of the underworld sect, let alone the cultivators of the old clans. After eliminating all the demonic beasts and birds, Wang Jian returned to the small hill. After all, he was the only foundation establishment cultivator in the Wang clan. He was also taken away to deal with the demonic beasts. Without a foundation establishment cultivator to oversee the situation, the Qi disciple cultivators might suffer heavy losses. Wang Jian landed on the small hill. Seeing that none of his clansmen were killed or injured, he was a little surprised. Wang Daoyuan used sound transmission to report the process of the battle with the demonic beasts, as well as his and Wang Shui's speculations. Before the sound transmission finished, they heard a buzzing sound of insects flapping their wings. A moment later, the sound of flapping wings was like thunder, constantly echoing in the entire valley. Chapter 39. All kinds of insects surrounded the cultivators from all directions. Wang Daoyuan was not afraid. Instead, he was relieved. The danger in front of him was better than the unknown danger. He sent a voice transmission to Wang Jian. Fifth great uncle. These are the demonic beast controllers' backup plan. Their target is the cultivators of the underworld sect. Don't take the lead. Find a chance to escape. I've given them all escape talismans. Don't worry about us. Wang Jian nodded and said, Everyone take out your defensive talismans. Hearing the clan leader's words, everyone in the Wang family took out their earth armor talismans. After all, the earth armor talismans were afraid of fire. They could be easily broken by fire-type attacks. The earth armor talismans were more reliable. Although they were more expensive, the buzzing sound made them feel that their lives were more valuable than the earth armor talismans. The buzzing sound became louder and louder. The enemy finally showed up. All kinds of spiritual insects covered the sky. Everyone in the Wang family was surrounded by fire cloud bees. The fire cloud bees were red all over. When they flew over, they really looked like a cloud of fire. The stinger of the fire cloud bees had fire poison. Once hit, without any effective treatment, it would be like being in a furnace, and they would die of dehydration. The fire cloud bees were very powerful against enemies. Unfortunately, they were only surrounded by worker bees. There were no queen bees or eggs, so it was useless to catch them. At this time, everyone was glad that they used the earth armor talismans instead of the earth armor talismans. Otherwise, the earth armor talismans would be broken in an instant. If that happened, they would not be able to keep their lives. However, although the fire cloud bees could not break the earth armor talismans in a short time, they could not stop their persistent attacks. If this dragged on, their chances of escaping would be slim. Wang Daoyuan took out a rain talisman. It formed a dark cloud with a radius of 5 feet in the air. Heavy rain fell from the dark cloud. The fire cloud bees immediately scattered and hid outside the range of the dark cloud. It was not that the rain talisman could cause any harm to the fire cloud bees. The rain talisman was not an offensive spell. The rain that fell was just ordinary water, with some water-type spiritual energy. It was just that spiritual insects did not like water, especially fire-type spiritual insects. Once they came into contact with water, their spells would be weakened. There were plenty of targets for the spiritual insects to attack, so there was no need for them to take the risk and fight this group to the death. Wang Jian stroked his long beard and said with a smile, Daoyuan is indeed resourceful. A rain transformation talisman can be so useful. The other members of the Wang clan also heaved a sigh of relief. At the very least, there was no danger for the time being. The others were in a more difficult situation. The cultivators with water spiritual roots were better off, as they were temporarily safe with a rain transformation technique. Those without water spiritual roots could only use defensive spiritual talismans, or consume spiritual energy, to hold up a protective shield. A talisman like the rain transformation talisman was of little value. Usually, it was only useful for watering spiritual fields. Generally, cultivators who managed spiritual fields would learn the rain transformation technique. No one was willing to use the rain transformation talisman. This time, they came out to exterminate the demonic beasts. Who would bring this toy? Wang Daoyuan didn't have many rain transformation talismans. He had used a few to help Wang Shui, so he only had 2 left. However, the Wang clan didn't need to hold on all the time. They only needed to hold on until a portion of the cultivators couldn't hold on and fled the battlefield. Then, the Wang clan could follow the crowd and escape. On the flat ground to the right of the small hill, the cultivators of the underworld sect were happily cleaning up the battlefield. Since the battle had just ended, they were most relaxed. From the appearance of the buzzing sound to the spiritual insects attacking the cultivators, only 5 or 6 breaths of time had passed. The cultivators of the underworld sect didn't react in time. Many of them didn't even have time to hold up a protective shield before they were surrounded by the spiritual insects. On the other hand, the cultivators of the underworld sect didn't have the qualifications to clean up the battlefield. They focused on their surroundings. As soon as the buzzing sound appeared, they were prepared. Their situation was much better than the cultivators of the underworld sect. None of the spiritual insects dared to attack the 3 purple mansion elders. However, the 3 purple mansion elders were also helpless. With their strength, it wasn't difficult for them to use a few large-scale spells to kill all the spiritual insects. However, when the spiritual insects and the cultivators began fighting each other, the cultivators there would likely not be many who could survive after unleashing their ultimate moves to kill off the spiritual insects. In desperation, Zhou Qi had to announce loudly, "All Qi refining cultivators retreat immediately. Foundation establishment cultivators, listen to my command and kill the spiritual insects." Hearing Zhou Qi's order, Wang Jian said to everyone, "You guys follow Daoyuan's arrangement and retreat first. If I don't return alive, let Shui take over as the clan leader. If Shui doesn't return alive, let Daochang take over." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said yes to Wang Jian. He directly took out an earth escape talisman and escaped into the ground. He didn't return to the Golden Goose City. Instead, he escaped directly to the east. To the east of the Carriage Gorge was the countless mountain peaks of the Huiyan Peak. After thousands of years of encirclement and suppression by humans, there weren't many demonic beasts. However, it was really tiring to use the earth escape technique to travel through the rocks. Although the rocks belonged to the earth element, they were far harder and denser than the soil. Using the earth escape talisman in the rocks greatly reduced the speed and greatly increased the consumption of spiritual power. A first-stage upper-grade earth escape talisman could travel 100 miles in ordinary soil. But in the rocks, it could travel a maximum of 30 miles. However, Wang Daoyuan wasn't worried about the distance. In order to escape at any time, he had a lot of earth escape talismans in his hands. He currently had more than 100 in his hands. Nearly half of them were enough for him to escape all the way back to the Jade Spring Peak. If he could travel underground, he would never show his face. Saving his life was the most important thing. What was face, spirit stones, and so on compared to his life? Compared to escaping into the earth escape technique, and escaping into the rocks weren't completely inferior. At least, escaping into the rocks was better. With Wang Daoyuan's divine sense, he could penetrate 10 feet into the ground. But in the rocks, the divine sense's detection range was less than 1 foot. In order to avoid the enemy's detection, Wang Daoyuan tried his best to go down. Every foot he went down, the pressure on his body from the surrounding rocks increased. The consumption of spiritual power contained in the earth escape talisman also increased. When he went more than 10 feet into the rocks, the pressure on his body had reached its limit. If he continued to go down, he might be crushed. Although going down too deep would increase the burden on his body, it could reduce the probability of being discovered. So it was worth it. Wang Daoyuan sighed in his heart. It's a pity that I didn't cultivate a body refining technique. If it was second brother, going down 20 feet would be easy. If there was a chance in the future, he should cultivate a body refining technique. After all, the body was the capital of revolution. Although body refining consumed a lot of resources and would seriously affect his cultivation, he didn't care about it. As long as he set aside a few mu of land in his space, he could use it in a few years. Resources were not a problem at all. As for his cultivation, with enough spirit-gathering pills, he didn't need to worry about the effects of pill toxins. His cultivation speed was comparable to the little genius with a 7-inch spirit root. Moreover, he didn't have a way to obtain foundation-building pills. Reaching the peak of chi refining stage so quickly, other than increasing his battle strength, there was no other use. If his cultivation speed increased too quickly, there would be trouble with an unstable foundation. It was better to cultivate his body. The benefits of a strong body could be seen from Wang Daoxing's battle strength. In addition, slowing down his cultivation speed could strengthen his foundation and not attract too much attention. After all, everyone knew that he was a pentaspirit root trash. It was already a bit ridiculous for him to cultivate from the 4th level of chi refining stage to the 7th level in 4 years. If he quickly reached the peak of chi refining stage, then it really couldn't be explained. Overall, it was better to slow down his cultivation speed for the time being and focus on cultivating his body. In addition, he also had to consider learning alchemy. Although his talent in alchemy was not as good as in talisman crafting, he had to learn it. He had already harvested 2 batches of spiritual herbs to refine spirit-gathering pills and stored them in the space of the spirit pearl. If he asked 12th Uncle Wang Jiming to help him refine pills once or twice, it would be fine. But if he asked him to help with so many spiritual herbs in the space, he would definitely be suspected. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.